if he was barefoot. Is that still the case? Is he barefoot? Because I know on Facebook somebody posted a picture of these could be his shoes, or is that so he is presumed to be barefoot at this point?
What I can say is that his mom says all of his shoes are accounted for at the house. I'm not going to say that he's barefoot.
All right.
Allegedly!
Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. This is Lady Freedom here coming at you with another raw narrative. Here's a brief disclaimer for tonight's show. Let's watch.
That's ignorant! Allegedly, that's ignorant! Ignorant.
Judgment, Aslı.
Oi, you read my thoughts. You've got the shinin.
You mean shining?
Shh, you wanna get sued?
Judgment, Aslı.
You just use that shin of yours to call me and I'll come a-running.
Sorry for what?
But don't be reading my mind between 4 and 5. That's Willie time.
Hey, yo, father. I love it when he does that.
Let's watch.
Don't hit me back to good bullshit.
Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. This is Lady Freedom here coming at you with another raw narrative, and it's so nice to see all of you guys tonight. Thank you SCP Foundation. Thank you for being here and hitting that like button. Tammy Carr, thank you. Megan Els, I see. Tony, I wanted to wish you a happy Easter, Tony. I hope you're still here. I'm sorry I pushed the live up a little bit, but I hope you had a great Easter. It's so nice to see you always. Napanoch Father, thank you for being here. And I saw, I almost didn't play. I have to update that video, you know, because it does say like Sebastian has been missing almost a year. So I try not to play it as much, but I saw your request, so I played it there for you. And then Cece, I saw Cece in here. Baba Rose, Pale Rider, Lady for Justice is here. I saw Cinderella C. Taylor. I also saw Just Me, Astrology for Mystics with Jen. Thank you so much for hitting that like button, guys, and for being here. Hey, Show Poodles, nice to see you. Yeah, follow the money, Lady for Justice. That is like so true. In this case, I really believe that that is something to do here, is to follow the money trail, because we know there's a lot. Oh yes, I love Game of Thrones. I love Game of Thrones, Lady for Justice. I do. I do. It's such a good show. Ah, thanks, Snapper Noach Father. Thank you. And then I see Carla. Good to see you, Carla. Reward is now 500. Oh, okay. So I saw that Bullhorn Betty had a live, but I didn't watch it. But I saw something about an update that came. You know how it comes down on your phone and you kind of can see the notification. Thank you, Lady for Justice, for leaving that DNA on the like button. Thank you. So yeah, I heard there was some. Now, is that $500 like towards finding? Oh, 500,000. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, wonderful. 500,000. Okay, awesome. So I have to update that as well on the billboards. Yeah, I could probably just put like a 500 over those, and still use them. Okay, thank you for the update, SPC Foundation. Thank you so much. That's fantastic. Wow. For Summer and Sebastian. Fantastic. Oh my goodness. I'm so glad that that they decided to do that. I mean, I think it's a great idea to add Summer in there, just really great news. So yes, it's getting hot. That's right. It's getting hot in here. I put the poi, the people doing poi up there because we're playing with fire tonight, right? Because I heard a couple of different creators talking about, Chris Proudfoot, saying that we're playing with fire if we talk about the 3 a.m. video, right? And he was super upset about that enhanced photo. Just really, triggered, I guess. We say that, triggered, so we all kind of know what that means around here, by that. So I do think it's worth talking about, because it just shows that if they're worried about it. Oh yeah, Carla Dog is awesome in my opinion too. Hey Ann. So I like to play with fire sometimes. I think it's fun, and I think it's necessary in this case because things that are going to kind of be upsetting to people are only going to be upsetting if they had something to do with it or if they have some knowledge, right? In my opinion. So that's why I kind of find it interesting to talk about, because it's almost like saying, look over here and talk about this, so let's do it. But I also pulled in, so I have clips tonight from Deception Detective, right? So we have a couple of clips from Deception Detective. Also, Mob Crew did a part 3, right? So we reviewed part 1 and 2, and finally part 3 came out today, which is really exciting, and I wanted to share it with you guys too, so we could talk about that and review it. And then also, we have a video from Vinnie Politan. I don't know the date, and I think maybe it might be on there, but Justin posted this short, and it was experts saying what they thought of Chris and Katie's reactions. And so since we're talking about some of their reactions tonight, I thought it would be a good video to kind of pull in, and it's short, so really, really interesting what they had to say though. Hey Anne-Marie, good to see you, or Anna Marie, excuse me. So I wanted to show you all that and kind of go over what the experts have to say, right? Because, I'm not an expert. I'm just a YouTuber. Hey, Vana, good to see you. And Carla says, let's play with fire. Chris P, watch out. We may get a fire under your under your behind. You get the mouth talking. Yeah, I mean, he's pretty triggered about the 3 a.m. video and Mob Crew's assessment of it. And then Mob Crew being, Chris, I should say, his name isn't Mob Crew, that's his channel name. But Chris is super smart because he decided to use Grok, right? And it's the AI on X. So it's you know, really interesting that he would put all this information right into this you know, intelligence, artificial intelligence, and then it spits out data, right? But it's like a computer that's figuring it all out. Thank God. And then he started talking about like X and Y, and I'm like, oh no, not algebra, because I'm terrible at algebra. But the way that he explains it is really, really nice. You know, it's like anybody can really understand it, even if you're not great at math or science. You know, hey Trishy, good to see you. But it was a little bit, you know, it was more or less, like I said, putting in different data points, right, to come to a conclusion, even down to like using heat signatures and things like that. Thanks, Meg. Thank you for posting Mob Crew's link and channel. Definitely go and check him out, guys. And again, we're reviewing part 3 tonight, so we've already reviewed the first 2 parts. So definitely go over there and check them out. You know, because if you're a person that really likes to watch things in order. But basically, the first 2 parts were about how he's come to the conclusion that there were people in the neighborhood around 3 a.m. The reason for the flashlight video clips, right? Because there was Nick Barris put one out where he had cropped it up, right? And then we had the one where it was posted on Facebook. There were 3 clips, excuse me. There wasn't one, there were 3 clips posted on Facebook, and it was depicting different parts of the camera footage, right? And then Chris went in and was checking the field of view, explaining that, but he was also explaining that the 3 a.m. car came into the neighborhood, drove down Kellen, and then back up Kellen, ultimately pulling in to the Stafford Court area, right? Kind of that little curve of the Proudfoot street. And the home across the street is what picked up the surveillance. The car also tripped off the lights, right? So what he believes is that there was a getaway driver of sorts, right? And that's what I call it. I don't think he calls it that. But there was a getaway driver, right? When they went all the way down Kellen and they turned around, they dropped people off, right? Allegedly, from what he was explaining. And then when they pulled onto Stafford, they tripped off the motion sensor light, right? But they sat there for long enough for the light to go off. But then they ultimately trip it again, right? When they turn the lights on, when they're picking up the people, and then the car backs onto Kellen and out of the subdivision, right? Out of Victoria Place. And so that is that's his theory. And I agree with it. It definitely makes sense. And the timing is right for the reenactments that he's done. Yeah, I agree, Megan. He is awesome. Like he just, you know, that's a brilliant idea to check Grok. And I've never like used that or anything like that. So I wouldn't know the first thing on really how it would work. But from my understanding, it would just be like putting in the information and then it pops it out to you, you know. I thought of like the old cartoons, you know, when it, you know, they like put it in there and then all of a sudden like a slip comes out and it's like all this stuff, but that's basically what it looked like he did. But either way, we're going to watch that. But that was the first 2 videos basically summing that up. His theory on kind of the 3 a.m. lights, you know, and obviously someone came from Sebastian's residence, allegedly, from what we can see with our own 2 eyes on the video, that there was a light source that came from that direction and then a light source hurries back to the house, right? So, and we can see that with our eyes. So, I mean, even though this is all alleged, we can still watch it happen. Hey, Ray, good to see you. Yeah, I wish the FBI would look into it. I really do, because I mean, the FBI should hire him. Yeah, really, Meg. I mean, seriously. You know, I don't know. I can't tell you why they haven't concluded. You know, maybe because you can't really see people's faces to make them out. You know what I mean? I think that's probably one of the main reasons. I think they definitely, well, we know Eric Craddock has put the flashlight video in Sebastian's missing file, so it's a part of that missing file that they will refer back to if they need to, type of a thing. So, but oh, thank you, Trishy. Anne says, plus today I was going through more of my son's stuff. It's so hard for me. Oh, I'm so sorry, Anne. I'm so sorry. Oh my goodness. I know it's hard. I know it is. Carla says, I'm ready. Oh goodness, Carla. All right, guys. So we'll watch the first, we'll go ahead and watch this first clip, and we'll watch Mob Crew first, just because I went through and explained kind of for the first and second part. But definitely go watch it, because the way that I'm explaining it, he actually has all the visuals for it, and it all times out right. It's actually quite amazing, the timing and everything that matches up. So give me 1 second here. Oh, okay.
We will recover true crime mystery to the missing. In today's video, which is part 3 in the series, I'm going to be sharing some shocking and exciting results that I discovered in the Sebastian Rogers case, using AI and other tools to uncover what is likely going on in the 3 a.m. lights video, such as the distance of the lights moving and much more. Before, I've been providing theories and educated guesses into what I believed happened in these clips. But now I will be backing up my theories using complex AI and other programs to further prove what I believe is really going on in these 3 a.m. lights video. Just to recap, Sebastian Rain Drake Rogers, who at the time was a 15-year-old autistic teenager, he sadly went missing between the night of the 25th and the morning of 26th of February of 2024. It's now been over a year and still no trace of Sebastian Rogers. Now, if you're not familiar with this case, I would encourage you to check out the 2 videos in this series. The link to those are down in the description below. Not long after Sebastian Rogers' disappearance, a local reporter, Nick Barris, would release a short video showing lights moving in the background near the Proud Feeds home the same night Sebastian Rogers disappeared.
Are these 2 points of light believed to be people with flashlights in the area around Sebastian Rogers' Hendersonville home?
You see 2 light sources, which we've circled to help you follow. For point of reference, the security camera was pointed toward the back of Sebastian's home in a common area.
After this footage was released, about a month later, in a Facebook group, more clips from that same security camera would be released. This footage gave us much more context about where the lights were and also showed other anomalies. Now fast forward 1 year later, and on this channel I have spent over 100 hours easily trying to break down and decipher this footage. Recently, Crispy made an alleged threat to me.
You want to look at your videos very carefully, and you want to get them done correctly? Get off your damn computer and bring your ass down here and come find me, and I'll walk with you on every part of this road and walk with you on every part of your video. I got no problem with it. But when you sit behind a damn keyboard and you do the shit that you're doing, you play with fire, you're liable to get burned.
So now, Crispy, I'm making you a promise. I'm going to push the envelope even more, thinking further outside the box to figure out what happened to Sebastian Rogers. I will be backing up my theories with complex AI and other programs, using algorithms to further prove what I believe is going on. So what have I discovered so far, and what else will I be using in the near future? So using Grok's Deep Search AI engine, I took a screenshot of the 3 a.m. video where you can see subject 1 in the green circle. As you can see, I have the 2 floodlights on the left in a red circle and the floodlight on the right within a yellow circle. So I went to Google Earth and measured both floodlights from where they are to the source of the security camera, where the red circle being approximately 287 feet and the yellow circle being approximately 149 feet away. I would also feed the AI the distance between the red and yellow circles, now giving the AI an X and a Y axis to work out the problem of how far away subject 1 in the green circle is from the camera. I would end up doing this 3 times to see if the answers would change, and if so, how much of a difference I got between all 3. During the first time, as you can see here, where it did very extensive calculations given all the data I gave it, and it gave me the answer that the light in the green circle is approximately 272 feet away, which is pretty wild, but did not shock me, as this is approximately where I believe the flashlights were moving. As I said before, I did 2 more separate calculations using the same information, and during the second time it gave me a distance of approximately 220 feet, which is still in the ballpark of where I believe the lights were moving. And during the third test, I got a distance of approximately 252 feet away. So all that on average puts us exactly where, or close to, where I believe those lights were moving. Now I just want to add that technically AI calculations like this have to be taken with a grain of salt. But what I got from the AI deep search about this image was even far more exciting. It tells me that AI could definitely help shed light on the Sebastian Rogers case. AI has already been used to help solve cases before, and will only get better in time.
Okay, guys, so that's pretty cool stuff right there, in my opinion. And I can just see, Chris Proudfoot yelling at, Grok, being like, you better shut up, or, I'm going to beat you up. He's talking to AI. It's kind of funny. Hey, Vic, good to see you. So let's see here. So Chris is getting pissed off at Grok about, the information. I like the way that Chris calls his Chris Proudfoot Crispy, So I called him Crispy Stepfoot tonight on there, because I think that's funny. I guess he was telling, Chris from Mob Crew to come find him, and he'll walk the roads with him and stuff, which is really creepy, because in the past he's done that to people, where he's baiting them. He'll be like, give me a call, I'm blunt but I'm respectful, call me, come find me, and then people do come find him, and then he's like, oh, they're harassing me. It's really weird. Hey, YouTuber, good to see you, Joseph Rapp. And so it's kind of, crispy crunch. He's getting awful crisp about it, He gets crispy when you ask questions about, where's Sebastian, what happened, that kind of thing gets him real crispy. And so Chris used this AI, right? The Grok, and it's a deep search AI engine, right? So artificial intelligence engine used, right? Where you can search, different fields and things like that, right? To back up his theory about the 3 a.m. light sources or flashlight videos. So what he did was he measured the distance between everything, right? In terms of the camera, right? Then we had in the red, there was the floodlights, right? And then the light sources, green and yellow. The yellow one is going to be the one where we think somebody was dropped off, right? And was the scout in the situation. And so he took the red distance, which was about 287 feet, according to Grok. Then he took the yellow light source, which would be the flashlight that came from the car. And that was 149 feet, according to the AI search engine, right? And he put this information in 3 times. But he also measured the distance between the red and the yellow light, which would be about 157 feet. Then he took and tried to calculate how far away the green light was, right? So he put all this data in, and he did this a couple of different times. Put the field of view of the camera into the search engine as well, so that the AI could identify what type of camera was used and what its capabilities are. So super kind of high tech searching, right? Hey, Poppy Love, good to see you, little Miss Sharon. Hey, Bluegrass. And what he did here is he tried it out 3 times, and then he averaged all of the results, right? So like the first time he tried it, it was 272 feet away. Then the next time it was 220 feet. The third time it was 252 feet. So basically within the ballpark of between 220 and 272, right? So, you know, give or take. And he averaged all of those results out, which shows the placement of where all of the light sources are, right? Because we see the floodlights are the one light source that we can see in the video, right? And then we have the red, and those are in red. And then we see the yellow light source, which is the Scout, so to speak, in yellow, right? And that one's the one flashlight. And then whoever came from the Proudfoot residence, in my opinion, would have been the green. And we know that's about, 240 feet about. I forget what he said. Sorry about that. But very detailed responses. And also, hey, Mark Klein, good to see you. CB is afraid of BHB, not sure he wants to piss off this guy. Yeah, he's such a bullshitter. And good to see you, Robini. So now we're gonna watch kind of what else this AI search engine came up with based on the data that was put into the search engine to figure out the lights video or the flashlight video. So here we go. Hey, Annette, good to see you.
So what did I learn about this image? Which is coming from this clip where it appears that a car is turning on its lights. So once again, I fed the AI a lot of detail, such as the specs of the security camera, so the AI knows the field of view, and much more. Again, I did this multiple times to see if I would get different or the same results, and the answers I got were truly exciting. So after plugging a bunch of info into the AI, this was the conclusion. It determined that the anomaly of lights were likely coming from a car. It could tell by the upper left light was brighter, which would indicate a headlight, while the lower light is dimmer, which would indicate a tail light. It even goes on to say it believes it is likely a small to mid-sized car, approximately 14 to 16 feet, which is exactly what I said I believe the dimensions of this car were nearly 6 months ago. So again, I ran separate AI searches using this image, and this is where I really got goosebumps, as it gave me the same conclusion, as it believes these lights are likely from a car, and not only due to the brightness of the lights, but also due to the temperature of the lights, as it states here that a vehicle would give off a much stronger signature / temperature versus other light sources. This is so exciting, as there are other programs out there that use a combination of AI and algorithms using 2D images to determine how far an object, person, etc., using temperature signatures to get an approximate distance of those sources. As you can see here in this example, how the program works, where warmer temperatures appear to be warmer dark red. As objects appear further from the source, the temperatures get cooler, lighter, and eventually blue. Using this gives the data of approximate distance of the objects using these amazing programs. Now for the conclusion. Let's just break down one of the biggest red flags in this case. You have one incident where you have two lights moving between the Proud Feet home and the common area. Then you have an unknown vehicle that is literally parked with its lights off in the middle of the road, which then coincidentally turns on its lights at the same time while the two lights in the background are moving between the common area. Literally two separate events happening at the same time. Let me repeat that. Two separate and strange events happening at the same time during the early hours in which Sebastian Rogers disappeared. Even though I have provided educated proof time and time again that this likely happened around 3 a.m., yet the Proud Feet have never entertained the idea that Sebastian Rogers could have been abducted by an unknown party. Yet there is literal proof with security footage to heavily suggest otherwise. Only a year later would one of them mention the possibility that he could have been abducted. Crispy and SF want to claim that the lights are some guy walking his trash can out just before the garbage truck comes. Yet if you notice, they never talk about the giant elephant in the room. This unknown vehicle parked on their street just homes away where Sebastian Rogers would disappear. And yet they do not show any concerns. If that in itself isn't one of the biggest red flags, I don't know what is. I will use these tools to do whatever I can to help get answers for Seth and Sebastian Rogers. Sebastian Rogers has now been missing over a year now, and in my opinion, it is clear who had the motives, who had the means, and who executed this plan. Justice will come one day, and there is no such thing as a perfect crime.
Okay, guys, there you have it. So I agree with that completely. Means, motive, opportunity there. Absolutely. And then, that justice will be served. The trash man, Loma Sharon, they expect us to believe. They expect us to believe that. Hey, momming it up. Good to see you. I can't even believe it. I'm like, really? I mean, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Oh, that's awesome. Okay, drive safely, momming it up. Oh my goodness, congratulations. You must be so proud. Aw, that's awesome. Yeah, guys, so basically Chris went ahead and, fed the AI data, right? And he's doing this multiple times to kind of see what the results are to make sure that he's getting, more accurate results. And so he puts in the specs of the security camera, right? And then the data that pops out at him is going to be lights coming from a car, right? Where you can see the upper headlight and the lower tail lights. So the upper headlights are going to be a little brighter. The lower tail lights are going to be a little more dim. And that was what was identified through searching Grok, right? And again, what pops out is a small, mid-sized car, 14 to 16 feet, right? And when he ran the different AI searches, he came to the same conclusion. So he also talks about the headlights and that they give off a stronger temperature signature than other light sources that would be available, right? Or other light sources in general. So pretty cool information there. And then he goes into the heat signatures and how you read them. So like if it's a warmer heat signature, you're going to see it in red. Then as it gets a little bit cooler, you're going to see orange, yellow, green, all the way to blue, that really cool heat signature, right? That less, the less it goes, the less the heat signature is, you'll go through those color sequences. And it does show the approximate distance between the light sources, right? And that's how you can tell because of the temperature signatures. And he also talks about two separate events, right? So the two separate events that are happening at the same time are the car lights coming on as well as the flashlights moving through, right? So really important to remember that those two are separate events happening at the same time. Now the car lights or the flashlight sources are really big red flag, right? That the Proud Feet don't care to wonder if maybe someone did come into the neighborhood to abduct Sebastian, or that Sebastian maybe walked out of the house as they say that he has, allegedly, in my opinion, from what they've said, that they think he walked out of the house. But they're not worried about this activity in the neighborhood, about a possible abduction, about Sebastian leaving on his own. None of it. They want us to shut up about it, and they don't want us to talk about it or explore any of the possibilities within this flashlight video or footage, right? It's the giant elephant in the room, Chris called it, that the Proud Feet have no concern for this mystery car at 3 a.m. in the neighborhood, right? A car that really probably wasn't supposed to be there. And the only really evidence of someone being in the neighborhood, you know, it's amazing, you know? Hey, Unicorn of Hope, good to see you. Thanks for being here. What did T-Rev say about CP wanting to talk about CPS reports? Oh. Oh. I was stoked when Mob showed the motion light coming. Yeah, it's amazing. Me too, Lady for Justice. I thought that was so awesome. You know what I mean? It was great. It was really great to see that. And, you know, just kind of breaking it down for all of us, you know? It's awesome. Deny, Crispy, all you want. Math science doesn't lie, unlike you. Crispy. That really cracks me up. I like that. I like that one. He's an awful crispy stepfoot. Hey Suzanne, good to see you. Robini says if the heat signatures app was used on picture of people that looks like to be carrying someone, could we tell if the person being carried was alive, allegedly? You know, I would think so because of the heat, right? The body heat or the lack thereof. So that's a really great question, Robini. Yeah, I think it would. Now, through a blanket, I'm trying to think, because I have worn like the goggles, you know, that that you can see like infrared, I think they're called. Oh, did I miss Rogue's comment? Missing your guys' comments. Rogue says, do you realize that every ex-law enforcement and working are saying that this particular police department in Tennessee are stupid, lazy, and small-minded? Their words, not mine. We all know it. Oh, wow. Really? I didn't hear that, Rogue. Oh, my goodness. Wow. I mean, I could imagine they don't look the best, like, to a lot of people, you know? I mean, I agree, Rogue. I'd have a better chance finding a trash bag full of $100 bills than him walking out. I agree, right? Because of the camera across the street, it showed him that if they're gonna say that Sebastian took the trash out, right, and he was caught on video taking the trash out, then I think that it's pretty safe to say that he would have been seen if he walked out the front door. And remember, Chris and Katie, well, mainly Chris, on Web Sleuths said that the only door that Sebastian could have walked out of the house would be the front door. And he said that's the only logical door that he would have used. Katie also said that Sebastian mainly used the front door, and he would lock the door behind himself. You know, we've heard her say that too. Hey, Couponing, good to see you. And Poppy Love says, was he meaning what the girl stole from Seth's phone? Oh, yes. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, absolutely, Poppy Love. So yeah, the CPS reports that were stolen from Seth's phone by Wreck-It Rhonda. Yeah, or Michaela. Yep. I think that is what he was talking about. I heard a little bit about that today. Oh, thank you, Unicorn of Hope. Thank you for the green hearts. And it's an idea, Robini says. I mean, I think they're trying to keep the faith, Rogue. I know, but it's so frustrating, right? Because it's like, if we can put this much effort into it, why aren't they? I mean, I totally see what you're saying. I get it. I do. No, Unicorn of Hope. That picture's not fake. Trust me, it's not fake. It and I saw the Idaho 4 pic that they were trying to say was the picture from the flashlight video. I'll show you guys. It can't be the one from the food truck, because the one from the food truck, the girls are standing in a position to where it would never turn out to be looking like a man, for one. And then also the arm positioning and everything is completely off. Like, I don't know how they possibly passed it off. Because I even asked somebody to send me the photos that they were trying to say were from Idaho 4. And I was like, I don't understand how they would have passed that off. But yeah, because I enhanced the photo too, so I understand, like, that it is from the flashlight video and not from Idaho 4. You know, I know that was what a lot of people were trying to pass off as it, but like I said, when I saw it, I was like, there's no way. No, absolutely no way. Hey, Michelle, good to see you. Yeah, the door cams. Yeah, Michelle, the door cams from across the street would have picked him up. And even, Stepfoot said that as well. He said they would have been caught. He would have been caught on camera. And then he also said if Sebastian would have went out the window, he would have screamed because he would have, landed on the bushes and that are underneath of his window. So they said that as well. Yeah, that's a good point, YouTuber. Yeah, I know that many are giving the Sumner County Sheriff's Office the benefit of the doubt since Seth said he has restored faith in them. We don't know what LE has told him, and it seemed like that happened like around Sebastian's birthday, that Seth had a renewed faith in law enforcement. So yeah, and I think it's just frustrating at this juncture. Like, I totally understand it. Hey, Holly S, good to see you. And C Star, good to see you. Thanks for being here. Holly says, I believe it about LE. They're sad. Hey, Chloe Jade, good to see you. Good to see you. And Carla says, Unicorn of Hope. What are they talking about? The photo some of them had cleaned up. Chris called it photo of the Idaho 4. Yeah, he tried to say that one came from the Idaho 4. And there was a lot of people. He wasn't the only one saying that it came from Idaho 4. But it definitely didn't, because I know the source of the photo, and it wasn't from Idaho 4. The food truck, and I could probably even pull it up and show it to you guys tomorrow. I won't be able to pull it in because it was in a text message, because I was like, could you, because somebody was like, that's from the Idaho 4. And I was like, okay, send me the pictures that they're saying are from Idaho 4. Like, just send them to me. Let me see. And I looked at them. I was like, there's no way. Pulled them into my software. There's no way. So no, they're not. And Poppy Love says, so CP was trying to find out what Seth found out that was in the CPS reports. Probably so, Poppy. I would say yes, because they didn't get a lawyer to get those particular those reports. The only people that can get reports like that would be the parents, and they would have to get a lawyer first, and then the lawyer would have to obtain those papers, and that's the route that Seth took, and that's how he obtained them. So if they didn't, if Katie herself, in other words, didn't take those steps, then she wouldn't have had a copy of them unless Seth gave them to her. But they were being very strict with him about sharing those with anybody. And unfortunately, that's why we call her Wreck-It Rhonda, among other reasons. Hey, Shadow. Well, Unicorn of Hope, you can send it to me too. If you want to send it to me, I could pop it up. If you want to send it to ladyfreedomsrawnarratives@gmail.com, you can send me the one that you're talking about. But the ones that I saw, oh good Lord, there's no way in hell that those came from Idaho 4. Especially because like one of the girls was standing and her arm was like sticking out. It was weird. It was like there's absolutely no way, Yeah, no way, Rogue, thank you. I'm like, no, it's not, trust me. But like I said, I mean, I always will entertain things. Like if you guys send it to me, I'm gonna look at it, and of course, I have no problem doing that at all. But when I looked, I was like, no way. But you might be talking about a different photo altogether too. So I was sent, I think there was like 2 or 3 that I was sent, and I looked at them and, kind of analyzed them and put them into the software too, the same software that I use to enhance this photo. One of them, this other one, well, you can tell because I've labeled it, right? Limelight Girl, our friend Limelight Girl came up with this one. She messed with the coloration and purples. This one, I messed with like the filtering and things like that on this other photo. And that was just kind of like the end result. So, but yeah, it was completely different than the ones that I was sent from, that people were alleging that were from the Idaho 4 that ultimately became that picture. And Michelle says, also in the morning, why didn't the mother notice her son's shoes were still there? Oh, that's a good point, Michelle. Yeah, I don't know. The whole morning is kind of odd, right? It's a little bit off. It's like, especially when we hear the Dateline episode, which I'm still working on the comparisons on that. But there's so many inconsistencies. One major one is Katie going into the bathroom to check to see if Sebastian was in the bathroom. Also, when she went into his room, she said that she thought he was in there because he always turns and looks, and he didn't turn and look, and that's when she realized he wasn't there. But you can tell if somebody's in bed or not, just by looking at the bed. It's either empty or it's not, unless like what we used to do when you're kids and you're gonna sneak out of your house or whatever, you arrange the pillows, put the blanket over, make it look like somebody's laying there, but so I called bullshit on that one too. Hey, Sandy. Sandy says, in my opinion, if they say he left through the front door, then he went out another door. Whatever they say, the opposite occurred. Yeah, that's a good point, Sandy. Well, and, I was thinking about that too, because they do have, like the back porch. He could have went out the back porch. But then he would have had to go through, because they do have like a fenced in backyard. So he would have had to go through the gate. So I think personally that he would have been caught on camera at some point. Now I've heard different people saying different things about how, it's also very possible that it was so dark in the neighborhood that they weren't able to, he could have evaded the security cameras on the houses and things like that. But yeah, and that's another thing people wonder about too, Michelle. Why didn't his mother check the loud noise when she heard it, even if she asked him if he was okay and he answered but moms would still want to check. Yeah, and especially if it happened like an hour after bedtime, right? If he was kind of like stirring around even up to a half hour. But then again, we always have to remember too that Sebastian was supposedly taking medications at bedtime. So, it would be odd if she heard him up still, especially if she had given him his medications, just my opinion. But Robini says allegedly LE were taking or tell allegedly LE were telling volunteers they didn't have enough money to print flyers off. That's pathetic in my opinion. Seth did say that when he would go to pick up flyers from Sumner County that he would have to check that it was still in their budget, or that they still had it within their budget to print the flyers off. So yeah, it is sad. It is sad. It just is. And if that's true, they definitely need to pass the case off. I think they do need to pass the case off, Robini. I think it's time. I don't know that they'll ever do that, which, because I'd hate, I would just hate to get people's hopes up and say, that maybe really soon here they will do that, because I really don't think they will. I think that they're too prideful, in my opinion, to do that, but I would hope that they would, because I think they need to. I really do. And YouTuber says, in my opinion, LE finally contacted Seth soon after Dog got involved, and wide publicity of the case was exposing their inaction. And you're probably right, YouTuber. I mean, like I said before, like we were talking about it a couple of episodes ago, the pressure is a good thing, because it does kind of make it to where they feel more urgency and the need to take action. Like you said, if people are saying that they're not taking action, it may apply enough pressure for them to take action, so that's a really good point. CP probably told someone that, C-Star. And Meg says, I wish they would hand the case over to the FBI in cold case. Yeah, I do too. And I mean, I know the FBI is working it in some capacity, right? Because we have the flyer, there's a reward, but the jurisdiction still lies in Sumner County. Thank you, Rogue. Thank you. And Lady for Justice says, Sandy, how can they project Sebastian left out the front door when we can clearly see via doorbell cam that no one came out of that house? Yeah, I mean, I would have to agree there. It's and I wonder if the doorbell cam would also hit his window too. I was wondering about that. And it's possible that the field of view would hit his window too. So even if he went out the window, which, the window was locked according to Katie, yeah, they did. They did, Michelle. I agree with that as well. In the interviews, they talked in past tense and tried to distance themselves from the situation. I agree with that 100%, that they'd use distancing language. They have used distancing language a lot in this case, in my opinion, when it comes to even Chris using it, but Katie as well, and you wouldn't expect the mom to really use that kind of distancing language. Maybe a stepdad or step parent, but definitely not a mother distancing from their child. It's difficult to watch and hear. Oh, Robbie, and you saw it reported on BHB. And C-Star says CPS were from their home. They should know what they're about, in my opinion. Yeah, C-Star, that's true. That's true. But to get the actual records, they would have to go get a lawyer, because I did look it up at some point and I was like, how do they how do you get the records, right? Like who's privy to those records? And it said that they, you know, only with a lawyer they can, and only the parents too. Like it's not like anybody can get those, you know, it's got to be the parents of the child. So I've seen it. It's a guy in a black and white hoodie. Thank you, Unicorn of Hope. Thank you. Yeah, just send it to me. And it's just my channel name. It's Lady Freedom's Raw Narratives at gmail.com, no apostrophe. Oh, thanks, Rogue. Thank you. I didn't see that. Carla says, YouTuber, my exact thoughts. Dog was also calling out Sumner County. So in my opinion, they wanted dog out. Yeah. Well, and I also think that they wanted to make sure that they were, you know, stepping their game up a little bit because they were getting that pressure. And that's, it's not a bad thing if it's not like not threatening. Because it's not threatening to be like, hey, you're not taking action. You're not taking adequate action, or, you know, what's going on. Oh, I can't wait for America's Most Wanted, Meg. That is, I think we're all kind of on the edge of our seats waiting to see, you know, what's going to be said there. Because it's, we've definitely seen a lot of differing stories and weird, and it's very weird. Like, I wonder where they did the interview, if they didn't do it at their home, if they met them someplace. Like, I don't know. It's very strange. That part, I'm really wondering about that. Yeah, really wondering about that. I'm just glad that at least if Sebastian's out there, he can see his bedroom from his dad's house. And then that way, you know, he can know that like his room is waiting for him when he comes home, you know. And I think that's the most important thing, because I think that's got to be crushing. You know, if Sebastian's out there somewhere and he did happen to see that, that he couldn't see his bedroom, you know what I mean? And all of his things. And I just, that's another thing that just really breaks my heart for him. Well, that's true. YouTuber, in my opinion, they won't do that because they would expose their ineptness and or corruption. Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you so much, Lady for Justice. I will check. And Sandy says, they also said he's not within a 5-mile radius. Well, guess what? Yeah, Sandy. I mean, and who knows? And, you know, Katie did say that maybe he got outside of the search radius, right? She was saying that on Chronicles of Olivia as well. So, you know, she told Nancy also after that she thinks that maybe somebody took Sebastian. But then again, you know, like Chris was saying, it's a giant red flag that they're not more interested in this 3 a.m. car, you know, because if we didn't see Sebastian walking around the neighborhood or out of the neighborhood or on any surveillance anywhere else, then this would be something, right? But instead they were worried about the other video that SF put together, you know? True, Michelle. Yeah, that's a great point. If the child was barefoot, he would run into problems like glass debris or even stickers, unless he wasn't on foot, like in a vehicle. Right, exactly. And they should be more concerned about that, right? I would think. I would think that they would, you know, in my opinion, like if it was me, I would really be wondering who that was in the car, and everything like that. You know, because obviously that's kind of where their thought process is. You would think they would be more concerned. Yeah, I believe it's from the 3 a.m. video. Oh, definitely. Yeah. And the thing is we have to remember that those motion sensor lights kicked on right as he's coming up, right as they're walking towards the 3 a.m. car. Where the 3 a.m. car is, where the flashlight video is situated would be closer, right? Because it's on Stafford. It's on that little curve on Stafford, you know, from Kellen. and they sit there and they park, right? And they park there for long enough for the lights to kick off again. And then as soon as the lights kick on again, it's because of the headlights being turned back on. So now we have light illuminating the area and what appears to be someone carrying someone out. Another thing to remember here is that Bobby the neighbor also alleged in her call with Stephen Crabtree and UA Crimson Tide that she did not know she was being recorded on, but she was. She stated that someone was carrying Sebastian out that night in the neighborhood and she saw it, so there's that. So, I mean, if we think about it in the proximity and the field of view of the camera, it would put that picture spot on. And that's why they're so angry about it. I mean, talk about being triggered. It was, it caused a lot of problems, and that's okay, because like I said last night, bring it on. Let's do it, because I'm not worried about it. I'm not, I didn't have anything to do with Sebastian's disappearance, but whoever did is pretty scared, I mean, just like the billboard says, this scares them, so let them be. Like I said, we're playing with fire tonight, guys. I'm not worried about it. And Meg says, YouTuber, I sadly agree. I read a case from 2000 of an 8-year-old boy in Florida who was last seen with his mother and went missing. Ellie left the case open, still is. Yeah, Megan, you were telling me about that. And, since the case is still open, nobody can get information, like a FOIA for it. I remember you telling me about that. 2000. Michelle says, why call a husband from school when she was in the car looking at the school? She should have called 911 first, then her husband. Yeah, I agree with that. I think my first instinct would have been 911, and my second instinct would have been to call my ex-husband, right? Because that's his child. Not Chris's. What is Chris going to do? He's all the way in Memphis. If he wasn't home, then how would he know about anything that's going on, and how is he being helpful? Katie is not, this quiet little flower that she's portrayed herself to be. She is very strong. She is very capable. She, has the ability to call 911 and tell them what's going on. She's in the military, for crying out loud. We're expected to believe, that she doesn't know how to handle an emergency situation when she's basically a first responder herself. I mean, come on. We got to be smarter than a 5th grader here, folks. Yeah, I don't think so either, Show Poodles, and it's really, really sad. But yeah, it will never be passed off, in my opinion. I just don't think so either. I don't see it happening, And I wish there was like a certain time period, like, hey, you're allowed 2 years in your jurisdiction, and then if you don't, if you're not any further than you were in the beginning, and there's no progress being made, then why not give it to a fresh set of eyes, Hey, Forever 20 or Forever Adam Forever 21, excuse me. And Michelle says the family and friends are so busy with social media drama, they haven't seemed to be acting like parents whose child is missing. Yeah, and that's such a great point. And I'm gonna play our next clip to that, Michelle, because there are some experts on Vinnie Politan. I wanted to show you guys this clip and what they were saying about the behavior of the parents. Carla says, well, I have always believed Chris was there. I'm sure he was at mommy's, but at his house at night, Katie and he on the phone, he heard something from Sebastian that pissed him off and he went there. Well, that's very possible, Carla. And, his truck was supposedly at his mother's house on Sunday. So, I believe Ellie did drop the ball in the beginning for sure. Yeah, and C-Star says, and his shoes were at the front door, according to KK. And same thing with Seth. When he got there, he saw his shoes at the door, Yeah, Unicorn of Hope. That's funny. She just said if it becomes a cold case by 2 years, I hope the um, Video Society will look at Sebastian. I wish there was a certain time frame. I really do. Um, I really, really do. Okay, here, guys. I'm gonna go ahead and play this next clip here. Hey, Detroit Rock City. Thanks for hitting the like button. Thank you. Thanks for being here, hun. Okay. Oh, here, we'll just read this one more by C. Taylor. I believe CPS reports not turned over to parents without an attorney is to protect the child. Right, exactly. And they're closed off, like juvenile records and things like that. Yeah, absolutely. I.e., a parent may be accused or suspected of mistreating the child. So CPS wouldn't just hand over reports to the parents. That's true. That's a really, really great point. A really great point, because the kids are trying to tell the CPS worker what's going on, and if they're talking bad about them, they don't want to get the kids in trouble, right? Like, what'd you tell them? You know what I mean, kind of a thing. So absolutely, C. Taylor, that is so true. And it just to me, it's a double-edged sword, right? Because it's like, in one instance, that's the reason why there's no accountability, in my opinion, for the CPS workers that drop the ball, or that don't do the right thing. But then again, it's like you have to protect the children, right? So it's like it's really a double-edged sword. It really is. Oh, of course, Annette. Yeah, Annette's asking for prayers. I'm going in for major surgery on Tuesday, and I'm a little bit nervous. Yeah, of course. Oh my goodness. Well, we're going to be praying for you, Annette. Thank you so much for letting us know. And because I do think, I know that prayers work. I've seen them work before, so I can say that. I'll have to allegedly, in my opinion, on that one. I don't think. But yeah, Annette, we'll be praying for you. I hope everything goes well, and I hope you have a speedy recovery. Um, I know, Michelle. I think that is a lot of people's biggest question. Why wasn't both parents charged for child neglect due to not being watched, or even for neglect? Today, really quick before we get into this other clip, but you kind of jogged my memory. I was watching, I think it was on Law and Crime, um, about parents who had taken their child's life because they thought that it was a good idea whenever the baby would get fussy, a 4-month-old, whenever the baby would start fussing, to take alcohol and rub it on the baby's gums. And they were doing that several times a day for about a month, and then they found the baby unresponsive. Um, but they were charged, obviously, with really heavy charges, right, like red rum. And but they were talking about, like, if they did plead down or something like that, and they might, because of intent, and they might get like manslaughter, and how long that would be. But unfortunately, the charges, and even with a conviction, would be so minor compared to, because the house was in shambles, of course. There was roaches everywhere, like everywhere, they said. It was filthy, filthy dirty. That it wasn't, it didn't, the living conditions were not, okay for anybody, let alone an infant. um but nevertheless, the bigger charges, which is what I think that they're going to be going for in this case as well, they're probably not going to be charged. I mean, they might stack them up, they could stack them, they could charge them with a bunch of things, but then again, some of them might get thrown out for the, more severe charges. So, um, but I know a lot of people, I know that bothers a lot of people, and it does bother me as well. because I do think that there was definite abuse in the household. And also, I want to play this clip now for you all because even the experts are thinking some of the things that we have talked about here on the show about Katie's demeanor and what she thinks it could be due to. So here we go.
It's a lot of what I didn't see. So when you're watching this clip and you understand what's going on, I would expect to see, and I'm sure you all can agree, more emotion. You know, if this was your 15-year-old son who is now missing, I would expect to see more visible emotion, maybe even some shaking and an actual tear, and we're just not seeing that here. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. And something else I'm noticing is that the interaction between Chris and Katie, they don't make eye contact at all. I would think if this was your stepson and your son, they would maybe be a little more closer, physically supporting each other. But it's just like this kind of random, she looks over this way. When he's talking, he's not looking at her, she's not looking at him. She does kind of glance over in his direction as almost to get approval for what she's saying. But there's really something that feels off here. But my biggest thing is the lack of emotion that is being shown.
Dr. Carol Lieberman, what did you see? What did you notice? What's significant here?
Well, there's a huge difference between this couple and Sebastian's father. I mean, his father is acting like someone generally acts when their son is missing, and they're very devastated by it. I think they look like robots, first of all, no feeling. But in particular, I think she looks like the typical woman who has been abused. I've treated a number of women who have been abused, and it's like this, not only robot-like, but her eyes down, deferred. Even when she looks at him, it's like kind of her approval, but it's more than that. It's like that she has been, she's afraid. There's some fear there, and I think that he has a lot of control over her. And when he was telling Sebastian's father, yes, let's have Sebastian live with you, she would have felt betrayed. If she wants Sebastian living with her, she would have felt betrayed by Chris. And that would have led to a lot of tension in the household.
Lauren, does the story itself make...
And that would have led to a lot of tension in the household.
Lauren, does the story itself make sense to you? Are there other things that you need to fill in what happened here?
It's a lot of detail that is not necessary, and I can tell you that happens when people are lying, like the size of that popcorn.
Colossal.
Colossal. It doesn't add any weight or any kind of anything to finding your son, and I need to know why these people are not searching, and I need to know why they've left town.
Tiffany Lee, Dr. Carol Lieberman, Lauren Vellucci.
Oh yeah, that lady was spot on. I need to know why they're not searching, and I need to know why they left town. Unnecessary, a lot of unnecessary details means that somebody is lying. A colossal popcorn. What does that have to do with anything? But yet you give no details when it comes to pertinent information and finding out what happened to Sebastian or where he can be. I mean, just so well said there. And that is full credit to Clutch Them Pearls. That was one of Justin's shorts today, and really great catch, and just really illustrates what we're talking about today. So one of the experts says, Katie has no tears, right? The absence of tears is very concerning to the expert, that there's no support shown to each other, right? When we see Chris and Katie, they don't look at each other, right? No eye contact. They're not touching each other, right? Like rubbing somebody's back or whatever, telling it it's okay, holding hands, none of that. We don't see anything besides, closed off body language. Katie looks over at Chris for approval. And that was the first expert's assessment of the proud feet, right? But then we go to Dr. Carol Lieberman. Oh, excuse me. To sum up the first assessment, it's concerning to see the lack of emotion in Katie and in Chris, right? Now, Carol Lieberman talks about how Seth and Chris and Katie are a very stark contrast. Hey, sweet sativa, good to see you. A very stark contrast, right? Seth acts like the parent of a missing child. He shows that genuine concern. He shows that he's looking for his son, and that's all that matters. No problem showing emotions, no problem giving details that are pertinent to finding Sebastian, because that's what he wants, is to find his son. Carol Lieberman describes Katie and Chris as robots. She does say that it's very typical with women who have been abused to have the turned down eyes, to be more deferred. She doesn't think that Katie is necessarily looking to Chris for approval, but she's looking to him because she's fearful or scared. That she thinks that CP has a lot of control over Katie, which I found that to be very interesting. And then, of course, you all know my background when it comes to DV. And so I, too, think that there is a heavy element of this coercive control within the relationship, super toxic, right? And then the other expert talks about how it would be a very tense environment within the home if Katie felt betrayed by her husband, Chris, for wanting Sebastian out of the home, right? Or for wanting to allow Sebastian to go live with his father because she didn't want him to go live with his father. So that was their assessment, which I found it to be really interesting, you know? That's so sweet. Thanks, Meg, for saying prayers for Annette. We will say prayers for you, Annette. Aw. If Ellie has a warrant, they can search wherever they want. They don't need permission. Absolutely. You know, as long as they have probable cause, they can definitely search, you know. I should say, as long as they have probable cause, you know, to present to the judge and the judge signs off on it, they can definitely search, you know, whatever they want. Absolutely. Yes, Astrology for Mystics with Jen, they did raise the reward to 500K. Thought I saw that somewhere today in the mix of my day. See, same here, and I just didn't get a chance to go watch, but I know Bullhorn Betty had mentioned an update on the reward, and then we confirmed it earlier today. So yeah. And C. Taylor says the other parent could do the same. Why would or wouldn't she do the same? Yeah, I mean, that's a great point. And it doesn't make any sense why the person who last had Sebastian in their care isn't showing more concern as to what happened to him. You know, that's very puzzling to me as well. Did he have dogs still? If so, could they have gotten out and he followed? Well, they did have two little Morkies, right? Which was like a Maltese and a Yorkie, I think, mix. But no, the dogs were, you know, sleeping with Katie that night or in the pen. You know, that was another thing that was, again, a slip up on Chris's part, because in the beginning, Katie always told everybody that she put the dogs up and then she went to bed. But then on Queen Bee's channel, Chris spilled the beans and said, hey, look, you know, when I'm not there, the dogs sleep with Katie. So when I come home, the dogs get a little bit upset with me because I make them sleep in the pen. So if we're going to go on Chris's words, and he wasn't home, then the dogs were probably sleeping with Katie, right? I mean, you know, but that's how they muddy the waters, right? You know, and then Chris gets mad. Well, you're not listening. Let me help you out. Let me make it crystal clear, and gets all upset. It's like, you're the one that did it, bro. So why are you mad, Mr. Pissy Pants? CP was already was already mad from the last CPS coming to the house at dinner time. In my opinion, that was the last straw. Yeah, very, very possible, Little Miss Sharon. I think that was a major point of contention. I mean, let's be honest. And it's just like C. Taylor was saying earlier. you know, that's probably another reason why they keep these records confidential, because the children are the ones that are kind of telling on the parents sometimes, and they don't want the children to get in trouble later on, you know, down the road if they read what the children are saying. You know, it's kind of it's just too bad, you know. Hey, Salty Gigi, good to see you. Show Poodle says evidently they are very special, as are the rest of the scum buckets they hang with in that town. Everything from barfly to rug users. Grr, in my opinion, of course. I agree. I agree. We are dealing with some very colorful characters. That is for sure. You know, and it's like more and more come out of the woodwork all the time. And Sweet Sativa says, I just wanted to share my mom's best friend was, oh no, oh my goodness, Sweet Sativa was red rummed in 1981, and they just finally made an arrest today. Oh, almost 44 years to the day. Wow, I'm overjoyed. That is such great news. Wow, Sweet Sativa. That is amazing. 44 years to the day. Golly. Well, I am so overjoyed for you, and I'm so happy. I hope that they're celebrating, and I hope that they get, you know, like a little bit of closure. I know it doesn't bring full closure, or, you know, maybe anything close to that word closure, you know, but yeah, that's amazing. It just goes to show, guys, and even, you know, Chris from Mob Crew said there is no perfect crime. You know, it's just a matter of time, you know, and I believe that. And I believe that's why tensions are growing and growing too, you know. Yeah, Jen, that is such wonderful news. Robini says CP admitted to hitting him with an instrument on a live, and because he's special needs, that makes it a felony, but still no charges. You know, Robini, that is such a good point. You know, I mean, it really is. It's like still no charges, like as if it was okay. You know what I mean? And it does feel that way. It feels, you know, and I think there should be stiffer penalties, especially when you're doing that to somebody who has special needs, and somebody, you know, that has like a pocket of fluid that you could really hurt somebody if you know, if something goes wrong. um you know, yeah, so great that there's an arrest. That's so great. Yeah, they just raised the reward, Detroit. Yes, 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 they did. They did. Ann Reynolds says CPS here told my sister that her daughter left with her dad, and I thought that was supposed to not be told to her. Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. I mean, and you know, they're human. They drop the ball too, you know. Um, Alcohol. Oh, yes, yes, yes. Oh, okay, I see what you guys are saying. Yeah. Alcohol on the fingertip is an old remedy. Yeah, but what they were doing though is they were doing it like several times a day. So like if the baby would get fussy, a 4-month-old, guys, and please don't use that old remedy. I just beg you guys, don't do that. You know, there's Ambisol that you can get and rub on their gums, you know, if they're fussy because they're teething. 4 months old, I don't know. But they were doing it to make the baby be quiet. And you know, honestly, 4 months old, there's only a few reasons a baby's going to be crying, right? They're hungry, they need to be changed, or, you know, and it may be teething, it could be, but again, you know, Ambisol on the gums, not alcohol. You know, the baby's BAC was 3.210 for a 4-month-old, you know. So it wasn't just like, you know, dip your finger in, you know, no, no. And it was several times a day over a month period. So that baby they were like keeping that baby drunk because, you know, they didn't want to take care of the baby, right? Because it's either like they're hungry, they need a diaper change, or they're tired, you know. I guess we could say even sometimes if they get overtired. But yeah, please don't do that old stuff. Oh, no, I didn't get a chance to look at it. Town Chat Cafe. I'm so sorry. Thank you for being here, and don't worry about being late. My goodness, I'm glad you're here. No, I didn't get a chance to look at it because I planned something different for tonight. But darn, I will go over and look at it too. I am so bad about the emails. I need to get better about that after lives because I was doing it right after lives, and I haven't. Um, Sweet Sativa says, bittersweet. Her body was found 6 years after being red rummed by a hunter, who lived next to where she was found. And they arrested him today, 43 years old. Or, excuse me, today, 43 years. She would have been 66 years old today. Oh, my goodness, Sweet Sativa. So he was like, okay, I got what you're saying. Mm. I'm so glad they arrested him. I bet you he thought he got away with it. Yeah, it is just amazing. Yeah, that's a totally dedicated law enforcement work. Absolutely, absolutely. I bet they were so relieved to get enough, get enough to make the arrest. Um, oh, of course, Sweet Sativa. Thank you for sharing that with us. That is such good news. And it's just like I said, it's a good indicator that even after that long, cases can still be solved. Arrests will come. Yeah, like making sure they don't say something wrong, Robbie. That's true. Mama Davis, good to see you, Mama Davis. She says, and fumbles words and doesn't finish sentences, in my opinion. I agree. Oh, yeah, I agree. Hey, Lolo, good to see you. Finally, the bigger news station is seeing and saying something. Yeah. Well, and that interview was from a while back, I think. I've never seen that clip either, Carla. I've never seen it, and I thought it was awesome. I was like, go, Justin. Great find. I thought I had seen every bit of coverage that Vinny that Vinny has ever done on Sebastian Rogers, and here I am. I'm like, what the heck? I don't remember seeing that. Oh no. Oh, Robbie. My aunt's ex-husband buried her car with all of her kids' pictures in it when they got divorced just to be a jerk. Oh my gosh. Ugh. It's amazing some of the lengths people will go to hurt each other. Robotic is a great analogy, Mama Davis. It is. Yeah, it is spot on. And we know she doesn't talk like that normally because she wasn't talking like that to Heather Cohen. We saw a completely different type of demeanor, if you will, but we've seen a lot of different demeanors from Katie, which, you know, it's just really strange. It's just really strange because you never know, Katie Proudfoot's like a box of chocolates. We never know what we're going to get out of Katie. You could get the Katie that talks like this. You can get the Katie that talks. I mean, I've heard her talk like she was from Chicago now. I know she was stationed in Great Lakes, but good Lord, you know. Town Chat Cafe says, I heard KP said she left town because she was afraid due to death threats, and she said Sebastian could be anywhere, but in all my opinion, she knows exactly where he is and what happened to him, in my opinion. Yeah, I agree. I agree. And I think that she left. I think that there's maybe a fair amount of truth in that, but it always really got me that Katie didn't have cameras set up at the house to begin with, which according to Nina, she thought that they did have cameras, right? But it's odd because that alleviates a lot of stress. Like, get yourself some cameras, put them up there. If somebody get you some motion sensor lights, Katie, because we know that you like to keep it really dark around your house. I mean, come on, put those floodlights back in. All you got to do is screw those bulbs in. But I mean, get yourself some motion sensor lights, get a camera system, and all you could look at it from your cell phone. Um, Michelle says, Mom rocking back and forth is comforting mechanism. It shows high tension in her surroundings, so she will turn to that trait. Yeah, but we've never seen her rocking back and forth ever again after that. She wasn't rocking at all ever. You know, it's kind of strange. Hey, Susan. Susan says, y'all, there is a real possibility Katie has Stockholm syndrome. Well, and another thing too is that we have to remember that Katie has childhood trauma, you know, so that's another thing, you know, that can factor in later in life, right? Because some of that stuff stays with you your whole life. Sometimes you can get therapies and get over it, or you can learn how to cope with it. Learning to understand it also helps tremendously, in my opinion. But you know, many of us that have had childhood trauma, you know, it'll stick with us, especially if we do not take the time to identify it and work through it. So yeah, Meg, this is spot on. Cough, right, Chris? You know, one of those, right? Or a cough. Tap the fingers, tap, tap, tap to get back on track, right? We three-wayed, when she does it, we three-wayed law enforcement, tap, tap, tap. Tapping is also a calming mechanism that is used for PTSD, for those of you that do not know that. And it actually helps you regulate yourself when you're starting to feel the anxiety. Tap, 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 you know, that constant kind of, if you think of it like a drum beat, 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 right? Things like that can calm you down. It's a coping skill, coping mechanism. Absolutely, Meg. Absolutely. I know a lot about tapping. Tapping helps a lot. And that is also a military tactic, right? Or a military, what's the word I'm looking for? Not really even tactic. That's where it comes from, is helping soldiers with their PTSD, you know? And so, yeah, the tapping absolutely calms you down, puts your focus back on, helps you to focus on something other than your anxiety. Because I mean, for those of you that don't know how anxiety feels, it can literally feel like you are having a heart attack, like you're going to, you know, unalive at that moment, because your heart's beating so fast and you can't breathe, and it's, you know, very intense. And so if you can learn coping skills, like say you have a flashback or something like that, and something like that comes on, you can learn different strategies, is what I was looking for. Different strategies to cope with those feelings in that moment, to where, you know, you can take it down a bunch of notches, you know. Michelle says, with the stepdad, was discipline a factor causing tension in the home from either party? Possibly, Michelle. And I will say that Chris's suggestion or way of dealing with Sebastian not cleaning his room properly was to take all of his toys and throw them in the trash. But he did say that Katie didn't let him do it the first time he tried to do it, but then there was another time that he did. And he did put his toys in the trash bag and throw them out. So Katie could have been, you know, telling him, don't do that to my son, you know, and things like that. It could have definitely been a point of contention, in my opinion. And C. Taylor says, also in these situations, there could be a sense of control because no one knows info that the other doesn't want released. That's very true. That's very true. And I remember, like, Chris wanting to do the pact, right? Wanting to do the pact with Seth. And I always thought that was so strange, because if you think about the reason that you would make a pact with somebody is it's like secretive, right? It's not being truthful. It's not transparent. There's nothing about it that's transparent. It's between a secret between 2, 3, 4 people, whatever. You know, it's usually a smaller group, right? Because it's harder to keep a secret if many people know, you know, loose lips sink ships kind of thing. But Holly S says, in this case, CPS made it worse. I think so too. They dropped the ball. Yeah, I mean, I couldn't be more frustrated with CPS in this scenario, because they knew that these things were building. They had to have. Even if there was only 3 reports, like Chris says, there was only 3 now. Still, even if we're to believe that, messed up as tater tots, Robini. Town Chat Cafe says, in my opinion, she probably did have the dogs in their crates if she was planning on allowing someone in the house to get to Sebastian's room, in my opinion. Well, and she very well could have had them in the crates. You never know, That's a good point. And C-Star says KK's childhood was traumatic, so maybe she's unsure what abuse is. She could be more easily manipulated. It's hard to know. Yeah, and C-Star, when you have a lower self-worth and self-esteem about yourself, you do put up with more, right? And a lot of times we accept the love that we think that we deserve. And so if you're already, you know, if you've already experienced traumatic situations and you've already been, ABUSED, then it does open you up to and being more vulnerable to experiencing it throughout life. And it's just like statistically speaking, so I agree. I agree with you. Hey, June. June says, my cat's name is Prissy Pants, and she looked at you on screen when you said Pissy Pants. How cute. Aw, June, that's so cute. She's like, who, me? Aw, well, hello, Miss Prissy Pants. And Michelle says, CP is very reactive towards anybody who tries to offer help. He becomes very reactive in negative manner. I agree, Michelle. And that's what we're going to go over. The deception detective says that very thing, right? He talks about it in one of his videos. I don't think it was live. I think it was a video. But I thought it was super interesting because, it was called, the title was called like So Ungrateful or something like that. And I can't agree more. It's very, very ungrateful to not want the kind of exposure that they are getting and that many, many other parents would, DIE for, right? They just would. They would KILL for it, right? Because they would do anything to get the type of exposure that Sebastian is. Dog the Bounty Hunter, I mean, come on. Annette says, I'm very nervous about the surgery because in 2021 I had a minor surgery and ended up with sepsis. Oh, 2 months in the hospital and 3 surgeries later. Oh, goodness. Yeah. Oh, gosh. And, it is scary going to the hospital because, there's a lot of people that have, illnesses and things like that. And yes, I've known a lot of people that have even gotten like MRSA from going to the hospital. Oh my goodness. Don't think about it though. Don't think about it like that. Just only positive thoughts, only positive thoughts. Oh my goodness though. I understand that though. Good night, Betty. Thank you for being here. Thank you. Thank you. Good night. Sleep well, sleep well. Hey, Lainey. Lainey says it's a felony to hit a disabled child with an instrument in Tennessee. I believe there's no excuse, in my opinion. I agree. I agree, Lainey. I do. I agree. And I wish that it was more serious. You know what I mean? I wish that, in my opinion, it would be great if we had arrests made for that and then they were brought in and questioned about the other. But we have to be really, really careful in terms of like the bigger picture, right? Because they don't want to tip them off to any information they have, which I think the information that they have is minimal, in my opinion. I think they have more than we know about, but I think it's still, in the grand scheme of things, quite minimal, but I wish the same thing. And I agree with you. I think that it should be highly illegal and frowned upon and harshly punished to hit a child who has special needs with an instrument. I do. And I think it should be punished for any child to be hit with an instrument, really. And that's just my opinion, and maybe people might think I'm like a softie or whatever, and you're too nice and stuff. But I don't think it is even that. I think it's more or less that there's other ways of dealing with it that is way more effective and that teaches a lesson, but it's unfortunate we can't force people to teach their kids a lesson rather than, hit and humiliate them. Cinderella says, also, what about CPS? They need to be held accountable. I agree, Cinderella, and there was one firing done. But other than that, no accountability. No accountability. Injuring the legally disabled is actually a federal offense, Vana says. Thanks, Vana. Yeah. Robbie, and he says it's called Haley's Law. Yeah. Yes. Shapoodle says give KK 3 days to produce Sebastian, just like Lori Vallow. Corruption in that PD, in my opinion. Possibly, Susan, possibly. There was that one police officer that was ripping down the highway and got a DUI and then, beat up the deputy and, because he was a superior and, you never know. Oh, I know, Carla. I don't know if they were doing that. See, they admitted to rubbing the alcohol in the baby's gums. They did. The baby's BAC was way too high for only that. I mean, I think they were doing. I think they were giving that baby liquor. Yeah. Oh, exactly, Mama Davis. I used to have. It was like a washcloth that you could wet down and you could put it in the freezer. And then on the corners, it had the little gummies, that they could chew on. My daughter loved those. And then the little, I know exactly what you're talking about, the little fruit holders, and they can gnaw on that too. I mean, absolutely way, way better than, rubbing the alcohol in the gums, I mean, and they didn't have Ambisol like back in the day, and we have that now, and that's just so much more. But no, they just, in my opinion, those parents did not want to deal with that baby, and change their diaper and, take care of the baby, feed the baby when the baby's hungry. I mean, I have not seen any or heard anything about the peaceful protest, Meg. I wish. I wish. Michelle says Ambisol never worked for her kids. Yeah, but the cold, sometimes that cold really helps. I don't know if they like the cold, but like, yeah, and of course, you let it thaw out a little bit. You don't give the baby when it's like freezing. But you put it in there and get it cold, and then that way they can, gnaw in there, and it's, um, to help soothe their gums. But 4 months old, I mean, some babies teeth early, but, I don't even think that baby was teething. I mean, but them not taking care of their house, the different, there's just stuff everywhere, cockroaches running around. Um, hey, Tony Fire, good to see you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being here. Lainey says, my son had colic and had severe sleeping issues. Found out it was from his autism, most likely. Still has sleep issues today. He cried 24/7 for 2 years. It felt like we all managed. Yeah. And, there are some babies that have colic and it does, right? They cry a lot. And, you just feel so sorry for the poor dears. I feel bad for mom too and dad, but yeah, these people, it just seemed like they were like not wanting to take care of this little beautiful baby. They didn't show a picture of her, but she was only 4 months old. Meg, crazy day. All right, guys, let's play the Deception Detective, his first one. Mark Klein says he could be anywhere. The Harley Davidson store was checked out well from the Proud Feet. That's funny. Yeah, it was. They spent quite a while during, at during the vigil even, they were busy over at the Harley shop wearing those Sebastian's Missing shirts. Um, Yeah, it is. It is C. Taylor. Tapping is in some forms of EMDR therapy. Yeah, I didn't do the EMDR therapy, but I do like the tapping, that helps. And I just think of like a drum beating, you know. Um True, Cinderella, true. A lot of people have childhood trauma and not done anything like this. If KK is guilty, she needs to look at her mom. This would not be an ankle bracelet kind of crime, in my opinion. Oh gosh, no. Oh yeah, exactly. You're exactly right there, you know. Um, mental health runs in the families. It does. It does. Thanks, Rogue. Thank you. Rogue says, I have an idea. Allegedly, Katie had left a kitchen window open and said by a neighbor, could she have done that to have pushed the kidnapping theory? Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, see, and I don't remember hearing about the kitchen window open. It's a strong possibility, you know. Anything's possible at this point. Yeah, that's interesting. Aw, Annette, I now have 14 grandchildren and about to be a great grandmother in September. Congratulations. That's fantastic. Aw. Yeah, you're welcome, Annette. Aw, that's wonderful. Carla says, I know this because of the flashlight video. Lolo says there's a short DD put up that compares an innocent parent's reaction to a guilty parent. Ooh, I want to look at that one, Lolo. Thank you. I'll go over and check it out. Oh my gosh, Mama Davis says, my dad has been missing for over 30 years and would have loved an iota of this attention Sebastian has. These parents would have been very grateful. Yeah, in my opinion. Absolutely. Yeah, there's just so many people out there too, right? It's not even just like missing kids, it's missing people. Yeah. Oh, Mama Davis. Yeah, I completely understand where you're coming from on that. Yeah, super interesting, Lolo. That sounds really interesting. And Rogue says, a thought had come to me. I wonder if Katie had allegedly left the kitchen window open to push the runaway. Oh, sorry. I must have read those twice. If that is true that he is supposed to do to find his son, lawsuits cost money. Yeah, they sure do. Lawsuits cost money. And if you don't win, then you're out the money, you know? Betty H says hitting kids teach them hate, where if you set the kid down and let them know that what they have done is not okay, the kids learn not to do the same thing again. I agree, Betty. And a lot of times, even especially with older kids, you know, the phones and electronics and games and different things that they enjoy doing is like a very good way to kind of detour them from, you know, acting up or, you know, doing undesirable behaviors, you know. So yeah, I agree. I agree. It gets a rise out of me when parents harm their children. Yeah, me too, Mama Davis. Me too. Especially Sebastian, you know, we've all got to just be so involved, you know, invested in his disappearance and trying to find him, that, you know, we hear these things and it's just unimaginable. You know, his sweet little smile, his demeanor, the way that he is so well behaved at the Texas Roadhouse, and, you know, just a caring kid, funny kid. It's horrible to think about it, you know. And Cinderella says the window was an afterthought. Yeah, show poodle's good point, but she pushed runaway, not abduction, until later. Yes, absolutely. Yes, that is very true. Okay, guys, let's watch Deception Detective.
I refer to my original request, just anyone that's willing, don't let him become forgotten. Don't let him become lost in the next story. Not to supersede other children, because they all deserve just as much, if not more, attention, because all children do. But I would say just please don't let him become forgotten and lost, because we're never gonna stop. We're never gonna let that happen if we can help it.
That's Katie Proudfoot, and I don't think she actually wants to find her missing son, Sebastian Rogers. And it's not just because of statements like that where she literally asked us to prioritize other children over her own son, or the fact that she's talking about him like he's already passed away when he's only been missing for a year. No, it's also because of how she and her husband, Chris Proudfoot, treat the people who are actually trying to find Sebastian. So in today's video, let's continue watching the most recent TV interview, and I'll show you what I mean. I'm Deception Detective, an attorney trained in statement analysis. This channel exposes lies and manipulation. So if that's your thing, hit like and subscribe. For early access to new videos, exclusive videos, and other cool perks, consider becoming a channel member. Link in description. If you missed my earlier episodes breaking down the first part of this interview, don't worry, I'll link them at the end. For now, the main gist is Sebastian Rogers is an autistic teen who disappeared about a year ago. In the interview we're going to analyze is his biological mother, Katie, who was last seen with him alive, and his stepfather, Chris Proudfoot, who was apparently out of town when he went missing. Alright, let's pick up where we left off with them telling the interviewer about a video that recently surfaced which might show Sebastian sneaking away the evening he supposedly went missing.
You were determined to get to the bottom of this, to get to the bottom of that video.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything that could possibly be something that could lead us to, and we're gonna keep looking. We're gonna keep digging and keep finding and confirm if it is or isn't, because, I mean, if it's possible, then it's got to be confirmed.
How hopeful are you that this video truly has something that could lead to finding Sebastian?
I pray that if there is anything even remotely in it that could help us find Sebastian, I pray that it is I don't know how to word it, but it's followed up and found out and confirmed one way or the other, because, you know, I mean,
Yeah, I mean, I've seen the video. I know what's in it. It actually gives us more rejuvenated hope that we may actually be onto something. We just have to run it down. We've got to figure this out. And for law enforcement, doing what they can, and with the help of TBI, the FBI, all of that. I mean, I believe Secret Service was involved in the beginning. Maybe they can look at this video as well. Let's bring people back to the table, and let's exercise every possibility of enhancing this video, looking at whatever, and tackling what it is to get an answer.
It sounds like Chris wants all the help he can get analyzing that video, but his actions say otherwise. As I said in the intro, the Proudfoots say they want help, but when someone actually helps them, it's a different story. The best known example of this, of course, is Dog the Bounty Hunter, who volunteered his services, but has only been met with resistance from the Proudfoots. But when it comes to the video, there actually is someone on YouTube who's been breaking down all the videos related to this case in great detail, and that is YouTuber Mob Crew. And just like Dog the Bounty Hunter and everyone else who's been working for free to try to figure out what happened to Sebastian, Chris isn't very grateful. In fact, here's the thanks Mob Crew got from Chris on a live stream not long ago.
You know what? I even went in and told Mob Crew that when he was sitting there talking all that, there was a whole bunch of shit he was saying, and I can't remember what all he said, but I went in there and I said, well, if you really want to know that bad, why don't you go in there? Why don't you go ask him? He's got no problem speaking to you.
Well, I got Mob Crew a better one. You want to look at your videos very carefully, and you want to get them done correctly? Get off your damn computer and bring your ass down here and come find me, and I'll walk with you on every part of this road and walk with you on every part of your video. I got no problem with it. But when you sit behind a damn keyboard and you do the shit that you're doing, you play with fire, you're liable to get burned. You might want to reconsider some of the things he's doing right now, because he potentially may have a bigger issue down the road.
Some thanks, huh? And the way that the Proudfoots ask for help but then refuse it when they actually get it is part of a bigger sign of a hoax, and that is contradictions.
I agree, Michelle. He talks looking straight forward as if he wants the person he's talking to actually believe what's coming out of his mouth. I agree. Hey, I am Two Bear. Good to see you. Oh yeah, come on. I am T Bear says, oh yeah, come get a restraining order. Come on down. Step right up, folks. Who wants the next restraint? And see, he baits people. Like, I'm not even, I'm not being rude, but like, I'm just pointing it out, right? And I'm not being accusatory. I'm just pointing it out that he is actually baiting people and inviting people to contact him or to come find him as if. And then he's going to turn around and, file a restraining order. And it's really weird. And how could you get a restraining order if you're, if you're, I mean, it would be the dumbest thing ever. It would be the dumbest thing ever. So, let's see. Where do we start on this? So, Chris talks about how there's a rejuvenated hope, but with the SF video, it was already debunked and law enforcement knew about it like 2 days in, right? So like February 27th, 2024, they had already known about this footage and they had already ruled it out, right? The piece that SF Investigates is talking about like 12:17 a.m. Activity in the neighborhood. So, and then also, I found it to be really odd that Katie said that other missing children need just as much, if not more, attention than Sebastian. So just as much attention, if not more. Like, what mother of a missing child says that? That makes absolutely no sense. And then she says, if it's possible, then it needs to be confirmed when talking about the 12:17 activity in the neighborhood. Now, Proudfoot also says, the Proud Feet also say that they want help, but their actions speak differently, right? So anybody that's willing to help or try and figure out what happened to Sebastian are met with opposition, harassment, bullying, threats, you name it. He's going to get up on a panel and scream and yell about it, in my opinion, from what we've seen allegedly. CP also went off on Dog the Bounty Hunter, and just recently he alleged that he was the one who called Nick the Hat's parole officer and tried to get him in trouble. So that's a great big thank you for helping us try to figure out what happened to Sebastian. And don't forget, in the very beginning, when Nick first came on the scene, he was very adamant about getting to the bottom of the situation and not blaming one parent or another or anybody in the situation. He wanted to find out what was happening and what was going on first. So, just a very stark difference from what they're saying and what their actions are. He's trying to convince himself and convince the audience 100%, Rogue says. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. C. Taylor says Mob Crew has You Better and one. He's working on it. Fire. Exactly, C. Taylor. Exactly. He says he's playing with fire. I'm like, he's actually not, because he's actually trying to figure out what's going on. How is that playing with fire? It's not. Another threat by CP, and that another threat. It's constant. Shopoodle says, my thoughts exactly. I am too Bear. Threats is all I hear, Michelle. I agree. And YouTuber says, FYI, Edgar, one needs to sit behind a keyboard to digitally enhance a video. In my opinion, just saying. Isn't that the truth? I mean, how else do we do it, right? Right? I do it on my phone because I don't have all the high-tech stuff, But absolutely. Lolo says, Chris, does... What does that mean? He's gonna get burnt, ? Right? Yeah, I don't know what that means about him getting burnt. Why doesn't Ellie do something about the threats? I don't know, Lolo. It is mind-boggling to me, again, with the way that Chris is able to be so ultra, abusive to everybody in his path. and no consequences, and then he's all of a sudden the victim. It's so strange. It's like living in an alternate universe, honestly. If we're just looking in on the situation. Rob Beanie says, I got you a better one. CP, let all of us real mom walk the neighborhood with you and ask you the hard questions. One stipulation, no lies, allegedly. Absolutely. Wouldn't that be fantastic? Oh, I'd be so down for that. I'd be so down for that. And Mama Davis says, OCP mob crew, are looking real close there, buddy. In my opinion, Rogue says she has nervous smiling or guilty smiling. I would hate to think that she would find her missing son being funny. Well, exactly. It's weird, right? Like all of the smiling in that interview, there was a lot of it, right? And looking up, not to recall anything, right? Because a lot of us do. I know I do it. I've noticed it. Like if I rewatch my videos, I'll start looking up to recall information, and I'm like, oh, that looks kind of odd. But it is. You usually will look up, but she was looking up to the heavens, like as in, very strange. And the nervous laughter from the beginning, right? We even saw that in the Holly Thompson interview, the first interview, 8 days into Sebastian's disappearance. Chris and Katie are laughing through that interview as well. Katie also does like a snicker in the beginning of the interview, if we recall too. So Detroit Rock City says, that's what you do, CP. You talk big game for a tiny little man baby. I agree. And he doesn't even show his face when he does it. If you're gonna like confront somebody, why don't you turn your camera on and confront them? Instead you're hiding behind the little C, and then you got your little posse on the on the platform that you choose to go on, whoever's platform will allow for it. And it's ridiculous. Show your face, CP. Let's see how angry little man baby gets. Michelle says the hole in his face don't match with what is putting out there. Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. Hey, Irony Rose. Irony Rose says, so bizarre. He just screams out guilt, in my opinion. He does, me too. I mean, it's very apparent. It's very apparent. And don't forget, guys, too, like the deception detective, he is trained, in statement analysis, right? So he's trained in like picking these things out and analyzing, understanding them, so there's that. And like I said, what is Chris gonna do? Get mad at the AI machine for popping out data just because somebody keyed the data in, and that's what they got out of it? I mean, come on. Rob Beanie says, look what god awful stuff HR said about Brittany. I'm surprised her hubby don't meet up with him. Sheesh. Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, I think that's absolutely awful, and uncalled for. And, and that's who he usually likes to pick on, and I mean, it doesn't even make you feel good to see him picking on another guy in this instance, because it's a guy that's trying to help him find his kid, you know what I mean? Or his kid. YouTuber says, cannot wait for all of Edgar's thinly veiled threats to be played in court, in my opinion. Oh, me too. Oh yeah, and they're very damning, And Shopoodle says, we are screaming into the wind. Even Seth said he didn't understand nothing being done about the threats. Yeah, he did say that. He did Shopoodles, and that's a good way to put it too. Screaming into the wind. Sometimes it feels like it's falling on deaf ears. I can't imagine how Seth feels. Is your mommy gonna walk with you, CP? Carla. Hey, Lil Redo, good to see you. Oh, you're fighting off pneumonia, Irony Rose? Oh gosh. Getting much better. Oh good. Woke up and had to say hello to my friends. Oh, I'm so glad you're here. Oh, I hope you feel better soon. That can be really horrible to have ammonia. I don't know why I'm calling it ammonia. Pneumonia. My goodness. Take care of yourself. My goodness. Rose says, I've had an ex say that And I responded by, what do you have? Just all talk, shaking my head. Yeah, and that's the thing. He does talk. He's a big talker. He likes to intimidate people, in my opinion. Sorry, guys. Let me plug my mic in. I thought I had it charged up. You know, in my opinion, he's definitely, that's why, like, I always search like tough guy, like I'll put that into the gifts, you know, and it'll pop out that one guy, and I like, you know, he's like he like comes up and like he like slaps that little rubber ducky. Like that's what I always think of Chris, like when he gets in his, like, you know, into his, you know, oh, big man mode, I'm gonna threaten somebody, you know. I always think of him like, you know, coming up and acting like a tough guy, you know. Yes. We've missed you, Meg. Yes. In my opinion, he's a bully for sure, Rogue. Oh yeah, he's like, you know, bully, bully, bully. I could be, see, it could be seen as threatening. Absolutely. You know, it's definitely aggressive. You know, it's aggressive language, and then also telling people to come find him. That really bothers me, especially because we know that he's, you know, out there pretending like he's so scared of everybody, but he's the one that's telling them, "Oh, come get me, come hit me up on Facebook," you know, and all this stuff. And Anne says, "I'm going to bed now. Get some sleep." Yes, love you, Anne. Thank you for being here. I hope you feel, you know, better. Yeah. Oh. Mm-hmm. Oh. Mm-hmm. Give me 1 second, guys. Oh, I can't find it, Meg. Okay. Uh-oh. Mm-hmm. And I am Tuber says, as if Chris has anything to add to the conversation, he wasn't there, right? Mob doesn't need help. Absolutely. Well, and that's what he says. He says it wasn't there, you know, and you know, I can kind of go either way on it. We don't know for sure, but you know, I mean, we do know that his truck was allegedly at his mom's house, you know. So, I mean, there's that. Hey, Sammy. Awful human, Cece says. I agree. 1 year, what God-fearing parent would let that much time pass without being completely out of their mind with fear, anger, and be knocking down the cop's door, begging, not treating them to do their job. Right. Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I agree, you know. Yeah, I can't wait for all those threats to end up in court, Meg, for sure. For sure, for sure. Carla says CP is a bully that thinks he's a big man. He's not. He's just a little guy that only gets big when mommy holds him up. Carla. Chris has brought all of the scrutiny on himself. I think so too, I am too, Bear. And I think he knows that. Like, I think that he likes taunting people. I think he does. He understands what he's doing when he does it, you know. He has threats for everyone. He does, Meg. Girl, you know, girls, older ladies, you know, all of that. And C. Taylor says, oh, Holly Thompson, WSMV4 interviewer, um, knew LE had vetted the video within a few days of Sebastian missing and said it was not connected to Sebastian's disappearance. Holly still went with this misinformation. I agree. I agree. And I was so surprised as well, you know, to see that. I'm like, really? You know? And Mark Klein says, only thing scared of Chrissy is the bathroom scale, in my opinion, of course. Oh my goodness. Could you imagine? The poor scale. It's like, no, please. Oh no. Oh my gosh, that's terrible. Um, Carla. He does amazing work. Yes, Meg. I agree. I love Deception Detective. He's kind of one of my new favorites that I kind of watch a lot of now. Especially you guys recommending him to me, and you know, really gets me thinking about it. It's like, wow, you know, um, a 43-year-old bully, rogue. Oh my gosh. He's a tough guy. Watch out. Deception Detective is nice, very nice looking. I am too. Bear says he's hot. Oh my goodness. Now he is very nice looking. He's got a good voice too for podcasting and things. He is also an attorney, Little Red. Yeah, he sure is. He surely is. Oh, that's a good idea, Detroit. Thank you. Meg, oh, I thought I was picking from hot YouTubers. If I had to pick one and only one, it would be Mama, in my opinion. He would call Dog a fussy, told him to come to knock on his door. He's an idiot. He did say that, Robbie. He did. He's like, come knock on my door. I don't know why he didn't come through. I was like, because his son was getting married and you were probably the farthest thing from his thought process at that point. But, it's always all about Chris. Crispy Critter over there threatening everyone, but no one files charges. Why not? I don't know. He is a Crispy Critter, Little Red. That's funny. A Crispy Critter. Crispy Chris, getting crisp about it. And Deception Detective made a comment that KP and CP both have changed how they react and what they say. They watched all the good creators like you to know how to adapt. Oh, thank you, Lolo. That's sweet of you. Thank you so much. I agree too. And I remember him saying that, and I think that Chris has been creeping on like all the YouTubers from the very beginning. Like if you hashtag Chris, he looks for himself and he's like, gets really mad and probably all red in the face. And if you're a woman, he's like, I'm gonna get her. It's kind of scary to think about it. Oh, good night, Lainey. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you. I picture Chrissy with his thumb in his mouth holding tight to a teddy bear. Oh my goodness. That's great. Oh my goodness. 5'7" man is not a bully, in my opinion. Just mouthy. Rob Beanie, that's funny. I agree. He does like to run that mouth. He sure does. Yeah, I don't understand how he does all the talking, but he wasn't there either, Lil Redo. And even Katie looks over to him, like when she said in the Chronicles of Olivia interview, she's like, we went to go pick up our niece, and then she's like, Esther, and he's like, yeah. I mean, it's weird. Yeah, Michelle, Michelle says, all jokes aside, CP, how aggressive he is in any situation, wanting to resort to threats of violence, makes me wonder if we're dealing with a scared runaway. Yeah, absolutely. Michelle, I said that really early on. I was like, do I think that Sebastian ran away? No, I don't think he did. But did he have plenty of reasons to run away? Like, yeah, I think he did, especially if I just sit and think about it, especially with what all we know now. It's a lot more than what we knew in the beginning. So even more so now, I do think that, that he had every reason to not want to be in that household, They do. They make each other look worse and worse, and themselves, Lolo. I agree. Yeah, I'm glad Lori Vallow was found guilty too, Rogue and Little Red. Yeah, I'm glad. I figured she would be too. I'm not sure if anyone in chat mentioned this, but the reward is $500,000. Yes, Sherry, thank you. We were talking about it earlier, but yeah, thank you for saying it again. Hey, Forrest, good to see you. So yeah, that is good news. Rogue, if you come on over around 1:30, I'm going over. Oh, you're gonna go over the interview after the guilty in Arizona. Lord help her, seriously. Oh, was that the juror that you're talking? Are you talking about the juror, Lil Rado? Very interesting. Like I said, the Lori Vallow case, they lost me when they were like talking about the storm and stuff. Like that was so weird. I did not want to hear about their sexcapades or whatever. I am Two Bear says Katie would break and spill the beans if Chris wound up in jail for threats. I think that's a good point. I think that is a good point. I think that's why he's always so close to her. You know what I mean? Doesn't let her talk, always watching over what she says, because he knows that she's probably gonna slip up. You know, I really believe that. Yeah, Tony Fire says anyone can see CP knows, and actually hope they don't find Sebastian. In my opinion, her face says it all. Yeah, absolutely. Same here. Same here. And her actions too, you know, just like her body language says a lot. And Robini says, I always wondered where the Eye of the Tiger song came from. They said a neighbor suggestion, but Seth said that wasn't his favorite song. Could it have been meant as a threat, allegedly? You know, that's possible, Robini. And yeah, that was another thing, you know, that we were lied to in the beginning. Like, oh, Sebastian likes Eye of the Tiger, you know, play it for him. It'll help to coax him out, you know, once he hears it and things like that. Like, I mean, gosh, that is... Yeah, and I remember when Seth came out and said that wasn't his favorite song. I was like, oh. And Mark Klein says, what does CP, Harley, and a vacuum cleaner have in common? Both carry dirt bags. That's awesome. That's good, Mark. Good joke. I love it. That's so funny. The Day Builder had great insight. I was gonna watch the Juror see Taylor. That was a dirtbag. Oh my gosh. Michelle says, but their behavior here lately seems more like they haven't really been trying to keep, as Mom said, him not being forgotten. Well, yeah, like they were saying that. They were like, we don't want him to be forgotten, but then in the same breath she turns around and says, just as much, if not more, attention. You know, that other missing kids deserve... Sorry, let me see what I wrote down. Other missing kids deserve just as much, if not more, attention than Sebastian, than her own son. Like, that is so weird to me. You know? Warrior Princess. It's a very interesting thought. Aggressive song. You know, it is an aggressive song. The Eye of the Tiger. It's like, you know, a fight song. You know, it gets you pumped, right? Like, you're like, Eye of the Tiger, you know, motivating or whatever, you know? I am too, Bear. That's so true. Yeah, and her soft-spoken Southern jaw is all gone. How odd. It is. And it's so weird. Like, you never know which Katie you're going to get. It's so strange, you know? Detroit Rock City says, Rob Beanie, Seth said his favorite song was Eastbound and Down from Smokey and the Bandit. Thanks, Detroit. He sure did. And Carla says, Cinderella, wow, how does anyone not know she red-rummed her kids? Oh, okay, sorry, I probably missed that comment. Okay, guys, we'll watch this next clip by Deception Detective.
In other words, when you're telling the truth, everything adds up and makes sense because you want help, so you're cooperating when you get it. But if you're pretending, you know you need to ask for help, but when someone comes along who can actually figure out the truth, it's not in your interest to cooperate. And therein lies the contradiction. But as we listen on, you'll see that there's plenty of smaller contradictions in their story too.
Let's bring people back to the table, and let's exercise every possibility of enhancing this video, looking at whatever, and tackling what it is to get an answer.
Now this is your chance to respond, to speak out, to speak your mind, whatever it is that you want to say. But you know, no matter what the story is, there are always people who will point fingers. What do you want to say to anyone out there who wants to say that one of you could have something to do with Sebastian's disappearance?
I would say to pause and to think, and I would say to consider the sources of information. Try to make sure that you're getting legitimate information. Avoid the rumors. And I would say that everyone should pause and remember why we all came together in the first place, and that is because Sebastian's missing, and because I'd like to believe that we all want to find him, and no matter what anyone's personal opinion is, that the most important thing still remains that Sebastian needs to be found and Sebastian needs to come home. And I would just say thank you to everyone and anyone that is a part of that.
Well, Katie, you're welcome. Remember, she was answering a question about people like me, people who say that she has something to do with Sebastian's disappearance. But besides thanking me, I also like the fact that she didn't say I'm wrong or that I'm lying or I'm mistaken, nor did she say that she and Chris are innocent, or even that they didn't have anything to do with Sebastian's disappearance, which I would have expected her to say if that were the case. Typically, when people are falsely accused of something, they say that their accusers are wrong or they're mistaken. But if you're actually guilty, saying that might not even occur to you in the first place.
And I would just say thank you to everyone and anyone that is a part of that.
So let's say Sebastian is listening when this is running, and he hears you, he sees you. What do you want to say to him?
I would say that I love you so very much, and that I hope that you're okay, and I would say that know that we all love you, and that there are so many people that care, and so many people that are looking, and hang in there, and know that we're going to find you, know that we're going to bring you home. I miss him so much. So at this point, it's keep searching. People keep looking. Keep searching, keep looking. We keep putting up new flyers. I know a lot of places, they take them down after so long. We just keep going back and putting more up. I refer to my original request just to anyone that's willing. Don't let him become forgotten. Don't let him become lost in the next story. Not to supersede other children, because they all deserve just as much, if not more, attention, because all children do. But I would say just please don't let him become forgotten and lost, because we're never gonna stop. We're never gonna let that happen if we can help it.
As I said in the intro, Katie speaks about Sebastian as if he's already dead, as if the best we can do is keep his memory alive. Even when she was addressing Sebastian directly, at the interviewer's prompting, by the way, she was speaking in platitudes. Hang in there. We love you. Rather than giving urgent, concrete advice, just in case he literally is watching. Like, Sebastian, if you're watching this, call 911. Mommy and Daddy are looking for you. Or, Sebastian, if you're out there, we're sorry if we did anything that made you run away. We forgive you for everything. We'll make it up to you. Just please come back home. In fact, when Katie was talking about hanging up posters, she wasn't even asking other people to hang up posters. She seemed more concerned about telling us that she and Chris are out there hanging up posters. In other words, she was more concerned about communicating to us that they're actively looking for him, rather than actually soliciting help from other people to find him, which might even be an example of over-persuasion, or someone who has a guilty conscience and feels the need to prove something that usually just goes unsaid.
All right, guys, a guilty conscience, and I agree. There's a guilty conscience involved here. So one thing that Deception Detective says right off the bat, and I agree fully, the truth adds up and makes sense, right? Lies don't make sense, and you have to keep on telling lies to kind of cover for the last lie, because it's hard to remember all of them. And naturally, our brain wants to tell the truth. And so that's where we see the Freudian slips, and that's where we see, the mix-ups and mess-ups and what they're saying and what they're conveying. I'd like to believe we all want to find him, Katie says. thank you for everyone and anyone. So thanks to the ones that think that she's involved, basically. She's thanking people even if they think that she's involved, right? She doesn't argue that they don't have anything to do with it, with Sebastian's disappearance, rather. And also, they do not deny anything here, and if you're being falsely or wrongly accused of something, you are going to be like, for those of you who think that, I hurt my son, I would never do something like that, right? Or I want him to come home. That's all I care about is finding my son. I could care less what other people think of me. Something like that would be more believable in my opinion, right? But she doesn't deny it. She just says, thank you. She also tells Sebastian to hang in there, right? So she's speaking in platitudes, and she tells him to hang in there, which is really odd to me. It's kind of like, just hold on, as if she knows where he is or something. It's very odd. She also says that she misses him so much and rocks back and forth. So I stand corrected. We do see some rocking, right? And it's kind of like one of these. And then she stops, right? But she says, I miss him so much, and does that rocking again. Which, typically is used as like a self-soothing mechanism. Again, kind of like the tapping. But again, if it's like a prolonged response or defense mechanism, it begins to be less believable in my opinion, because usually self-soothing is something that you're doing, okay, I'm soothing myself, okay, and then you kind of stop. But it's almost like she caught herself there. And I never noticed the rocking until just now. She also says something before she says that other children are more so important than Sebastian. She says not to supersede other children. But if your own child is missing, then that would supersede everybody, right? In my opinion, it would me. I wouldn't, I'm not going to say I wouldn't care about other kids. I know I would. I think I'm a caring person. But like at that point, I would be extremely selfish, and I would be like, I just want my son. Like that's all I would want to be talking about is my own child, not anybody else's. Now years and years down the road, maybe advocacy might be something that would help and be cathartic. But in this situation, I see it as being very, well, it's beyond bizarre to me that a mother would say that, she doesn't want her own son, who has been missing for a year at that point, to not supersede other children, and then even say that other children are more so important than her own. Again, the truth adds up. This is not the truth. The truth makes sense. This is not the truth. She does speak like Sebastian is not alive, in my opinion. She also speaks as if the only thing that we can do is keep Sebastian's memory alive. She doesn't plead for him to come home. And also, it's very, very odd that she is not showing more concern, right? She's not really showing any concern about asking the public for help and what the public can be doing. But she does make it a point to let us know that they are doing their part with flyers and things like that, but they don't ask the public to make sure that we're still doing our part in passing out flyers as well. So again, it just doesn't make sense, and it's not conducive with a parent who actually wants their child to be found, or a parent that is pleading for their child. Because obviously, in my opinion, she knows what happened to Sebastian, and YouTuber says, Forrest, yes, I can tell in this interview she's made a point of changing some of her rhetoric, in my opinion. Yeah, and she's also, sorry, Forrest, I probably missed your comment. Yeah, DD seems to do that and that. Sorry, let's see. I might have to go up more. Guilty mind. Yeah, C. Taylor, absolutely. Dee Dee said she seems to be aware of what she is saying. Yeah, I agree there too, Forrest. Hi, Cheyenne. Good to see you. Cheyenne says, is anyone else having trouble hearing what they are saying because of the music? Oh, I could probably put another, I mean, usually I'll put it without music, but Cheyenne, it's like a very, very small percentage of people who don't enjoy the music. And when you play someone else's content, you have to transform it. And so that's why I add the music. Plus, I think it adds to the dramatic effect of the words that are being said. Um, Police do not do better. They are people that will help the police and TBI, but they refuse to help. I wonder why. It's a scary thought. It is a scary thought, Rogue. I agree. Yeah, I agree. Megan, you think I have sexy arms? Me? No, DD liar. Meg, YouTuber. Oh my goodness. Exactly. My son would be the only child on my mind. Lolo, and I hate to say that because I know that I care about other kids, right? Like I wouldn't want anybody else's kid to be in that position or be missing, or, you know, I know that there's a lot of missing kids out there. I would understand that my child wouldn't have been the only one out there missing, right? But in the same way, it's like if you have the opportunity and the ear of a local news station, why would you give up that opportunity to advocate for other children when your child's missing? It's like it wouldn't even be on my radar. And I you know, I don't mean to sound selfish, but I would be very selfish, you know. Bad girls, Detroit. I would be super selfish and focused on my own. Sorry, I would be too. I am too bare, and I'm not afraid to admit it. You know, I just know I would be. I would be like beside myself, and I would, you know, oh, headphones is a good idea, YouTuber. And usually I will post one without any music on it, but then I'll have to transform it twice, and so I didn't have any time to do that today. But that is a good idea. I tried to double up um, the words in the video, right, make it louder than the music in the video, but we have to transform it to fall under fair use, right? I think he is, Mag, for sure. He, you know, he's a smart guy. He's a lawyer. You know, I mean, if anything, you know, I would praise CP for watching, you know, Deception Detective. But I do. I think KP and CP have been watching for sure to kind of try to figure out, you know, what people are saying, what the, you know, smarter people are saying. No offense, but you know, because he's a lawyer. Obviously, he's an expert in the field of analysis, right? Statement analysis. So, Mama Davis says there would be no room in my head, but my kids. Sorry, just being honest. Yeah, Mama, I'm the same way. I am the same way, you know. And of course, later down the line, but you know, you look at someone like Kyron Horman's mother, who Deception Detective will reference here later. And I mean, she is relentless in the pursuit to find out what happened to Kyron. She is relentless after the stepmother who was last with Kyron. And I do not blame her one bit, because I would be the same way. And I would just want people to keep talking about my son's case, you know, if he's missing. Carla says, shoot, they have not hung one flyer. They have taken down more than you and I could hang in a weekend. I believe that, Carla. I think they were taking flyers down for sure. You know, and they always talk about that too, oddly enough. You know, that's a great point, is that they do talk about other people taking the flyers down, but I think it's them and their friends, you know what I mean, their buddies. Um, Yeah. Oh gosh, Forrest, that's such a great point. She also says they are going to find a way to recover from this. You know, as if this is like, you know, a small issue, or, you know, as if their son isn't still out there missing, but we're going to recover from all this. You know, like we're strong, we're going to bounce back. You know, there's a couple different ways to take that, Forrest. So yeah, thank you for that comment. And Mark Klein says, I hope none of them are guilty, but damn, that they make it hard not going to the vigils, for fuck's sake. I know. Exactly, not going to the vigils, and then just some of this like language that they're using and some of the body language even, it just seems like, you know, not the way that we're used to seeing parents, you know. Um yeah, or even having one of their own. Yeah, absolutely. We've never seen them do a vigil. And then Chris said that it's because they think that vigils are more so for people who are not with us anymore than for, you know, their son. But prayer is powerful, and I think people would see them in a different light if they were more proactive, like putting out the flyers, doing their own vigils. You don't have to do a vigil with your ex. I understand not doing a vigil with your ex. I understand why you might just do one with them either way, you know, because there's a tragedy in the family, right? Because that does supersede a lot of, you know, old feelings or hurt feelings. You know, you put those feelings aside for your kids, you know, but we don't see them doing that even at all, you know. You know, as a matter of fact, they were just right over there, um, you know. Oh, good, Cheyenne. You know, yeah. So I mean, they're just kind of over there doing their own thing, shopping for Harleys, you know, dogging on Seth, showing up to his vigils, causing problems, or sending their friends over, you know, to cause issues and suggest a magnifying glass when viewing DD. Oh my goodness. We could see those arms better. No, I'm just teasing. Oh gosh, that poor guy. We're over here. Um, Robini says, like, it's all said and done, over with. We will recover from this. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Like they are working on recovering. Yeah, that's a great point, Robini. And just really, really odd. I mean, who says that? It's just weird language. And Forrest says, they both have been watching in other flying monkeys too. And let me say, if anyone hits a nerve, CP will come at you. Absolutely. That's 100%, in my opinion, true. Very true. Oh, thank you for adding my opinion, Forrest. Thank you. Mama Davis says, look at Dylan Rounds' mother, Candace. She would not stop. Absolutely. Same thing with Michael Monkey Vaughn's mom, right? Same thing with Brandy. Same thing with Brandy. Hey, wait, what? Good to see you. Oh, oh my goodness. Very painful. Oh no. Yes, we will definitely pray for you. Wait, what? My goodness. Oh, the ER can be such a horrible place when you're not feeling well. Oh, oh my goodness. We are praying for you. I hope that you feel better soon. Tony says, poor Harleys, they're probably going to ride the shit out of it. That'd be a flat tire after a block. Oh, God. Carla says, OMG, wait, what? Hope you heal quickly. Aw, thanks, Carla. Thanks, Annette. Thank you, Robini. And Michelle says, a child these adults are supposed to care and love is missing. You would think the step-parents would put petty stuff aside and pull together and try to find him. Yeah, you know, Michelle, and they did try to do it. I will say, you know, I think Seth tried a little bit harder. That's my opinion, you know, but I think he was willing to do it. I just don't think that it worked out, you know, so great. But, you know, it's very difficult. Some people are very difficult to work with, you know. So there's that, you know. Aw, thanks, Meg. Aw, thank you, Show Poodles. Well, they got plenty of that, says Annette. All right, guys, let's watch this very last clip from Deception Detective.
With his autism, is there anything else that we should add that you want the public to know right now?
I would say that he is what they would consider high functioning. He's not, he doesn't struggle with verbal communication, but he does, he does struggles sometimes with expressing himself is, I guess, the best way that I could put that. But he's so smart and he's so capable, and that I think the initial image of him that was portrayed was misleading to an extent. And I think that in the chaos of trying to get the initial information about him out, that various things got taken and misconstrued. So I would just tell everyone that he's smart, he's capable, he's funny, he's able to speak to you and to recognize things. You know, he's a teenager, and you know, so he's a young man. Honestly, he just had a birthday, and I'm sure that his mustache is coming in more. I mean, he really is a good kid.
What do you miss most about your son?
Oh, God. I miss his smile. I miss his laugh. I miss going and doing fun things with him. I miss taking him to get a haircut and him saying, "Mom, feel my head." I miss cooking dinner with him. I miss game nights. He would play Uno until the sun came up if you let him. You know, he goes through phases of which games he's into, but, you know, I miss him. I miss everything about him. The good, the bad. I miss his attitude. I miss, you know, him trying to eat all the sweets instead of dinner. I miss him stealing my Brussels sprouts while I'm trying to cook them.
Oh. I sense lots of joy that's being missed right now.
Green tea.
His jokes, the way he laughs when he tells a funny.
I don't like analyzing innocent parents, and one of the main reasons is how manipulative they are. They tug at your heartstrings by talking about their kid as weak, vulnerable. If you saw my video, What Do Innocent Parents Look Like, you'll know that Landon Bullard, the mother of Gannon Stouch, talked about him when he was a baby. And the reason for that is because they want to inspire some emotion in the people listening to them so that they might just help. That was a clip from my video analyzing Desiree Young, the mother of missing child Kyron Hormone. And it's actually pretty illustrative because Katie did the exact opposite of what Desiree did. Rather than telling us about how urgent it is to find Sebastian and how weak he is or vulnerable, instead she told us that he's a teenager who is starting to grow a mustache. If I were a volunteer and I had to decide where to allocate my time and resources, would I choose to help Kyron Horman, who sounds like he really needs the help and it's very urgent, or Sebastian Rogers, who his mother painted as pretty capable of handling himself and may have possibly run away? After all, he's a 16-year-old with hormones and a mustache. I think the answer is clear. In fact, the answer is so clear, I wonder if this is yet another subtle attempt from Katie to push searchers and volunteers onto other cases and to simply move on from Sebastian. Let them get along with their lives. Quit prying into them. Fortunately for Sebastian and unfortunately for the Proudfoots, I don't think my audience has any interest in moving along anytime soon. If you want to continue analyzing this interview, let me know by liking, commenting, and sharing. Until next time, stay true.
Okay, guys, so another really great analysis there, in my opinion. A lot to unpack, too. You know, so Katie goes into saying that Sebastian is considered high functioning, that he doesn't struggle to communicate verbally, but he does have some trouble expressing himself. At times it can be difficult. She also says Sebastian, she also says that how Sebastian was portrayed in the beginning was misleading at first. She does admit that, but then she also goes back into kind of saying that a lot of things were misconstrued, which I don't believe that is the case. She goes on to describe Sebastian as a teen, a young man with a mustache who is very capable and who's a really good kid. When asked what she misses about her son, Sebastian, Katie says his smile, his laugh, going and doing fun things with him. She also says that she enjoyed cooking dinner with him, that she liked to take him for haircuts and him asking her to feel his head afterwards. She says that she remembers game nights fondly and that Sebastian would play Uno all night long if you let him. She says she misses everything, the good and the bad, his attitude. She also misses him eating all the sweets and stealing Brussels sprouts before she could cook them. And then Chris comes in with this really weird, in my opinion, very awkward timing, and he says green tea, and it's like, what in the world are you just randomly spouting off green tea? Now obviously those of us who've been following the case know that there is a video of Sebastian and he's making a joke and he says green tea in the video, right? And it was a funny that he made, but it was very awkward timing in my opinion with Chris. You know, he could have been like, or, you know, the time that Sebastian was being silly and said green tea, you know, made the green tea joke, but instead he just like randomly goes green tea, and then, you know, Katie starts laughing like it's the funniest shit she's ever heard. It's very weird. Deception Detective brings up such a great point, and then he also brings up a couple of different moms to kind of reference and make his point. So he says that a lot of parents that are searching desperately for their children can become very manipulative and trying to get the public to focus on their child, right? And so he brings up Landon, right, who was Gannon Stouck's mother. And she says that the reason why Landon came up and spoke about Gannon when he was a baby and was telling people things about when he was a baby was to help the public understand and, you know, really humanize and sympathize with the fact that her baby, Landon's baby, Gannon, even though he was, you know, 7 at the time that his stepmother took his life, you know, she still went back to that time when he was a baby, you know, to let us all know, look, he's still my baby. He might be 7 years old, but he's always going to be my baby. And I'm always going to look for him. And I need you to help me look for him. Look how cute he was when he was little. Look at his little face. We saw the same thing with Seth. Seth did that. And I mean, boy, you would have thought he, you know, did or said something terrible. But I mean, I have to just say, this is one of my favorite baby pictures, and, you know, arguably. But I mean, look at Sebastian. Look at him with that little backwards hat. Look at him. You know? I mean, how could you not fall in love with that little face? Look at his little smile. Look how cute he is in his button-up shirt. Come on. You know, but Katie has no urgency. She portrays Sebastian as a young adult who's capable, right? And you know, he probably walked off. He's probably out there somewhere with his teenage attitude, you know. And then she makes it seem like he's fully capable of taking care of himself. So I mean, why would people look, right? And Deception Detective says this is Katie's subtle attempt, in his opinion, to move on, to make volunteers and searchers and the public move on from Sebastian's case, and more so they can move on with their own lives, right? Because let's be honest, that's what they've been saying to us for a very long time. Quit talking about it. You're just going to have to accept it. That's just the way it is. He's missing. You know, just going to have to move on. We got to Chris told Katie to put her big girl panties on, to put one foot in front of the other. You know, it's like, what the hell? Who says that to, you know, I mean, you're liable to get smacked for that from most moms, you know? It's like, how dare you tell me to, like, put my big girl panties on? My son's missing. Like, my whole life is gone. My whole reason for living is gone. You know, that's how most moms think of their kids. Most parents think of their kids that way, you know? She also said she had a goofy looking. Oh, Robini says she also said that Sebastian had a goofy looking smile, so they didn't take many pictures. He smelled bad and snacks because 15 and snacks. Yeah, and he rummages. He rummages in his own house, in his own cabinet. She calls him rummaging, like as if he's not in his own home where he's fully allowed to take anything he would like because he's hungry and he's a growing boy, for crying out loud. Bad timing, Detroit said. Bad timing. I mean, strange. Like, green tea, all of a sudden, like, Chris, you know, you were doing good when you were quiet over there. We like you better when you just sit there. Um, wait, what says, remember she said he would get in the floor and find shiny pennies and paper clips. She sure did. Wait, what? Yeah. And even Seth was like, well, that's stuff he did when he was little. You know, now that he's older, he doesn't do stuff like that. You know, same thing when they said that Sebastian would growl and stuff, you know? And Seth is like, well, he used to do that. Yeah, but like with therapies. Because that was another thing in the beginning that I couldn't understand. I was like, what medicines is Sebastian taking? Because the news, that in the news, they were saying during the first 7 days that, you know, Sebastian needs his medication and, you know, he's not going to be okay without it. But come to find out, he doesn't need the medication. It's not good to just go off of any medication without being properly weaned off of it. But I was thinking to myself, if he has autism, then what medications is he taking? You know, because there aren't any medications known for treating autism. It's all based on doing therapies. And so, you know, that was another misconception that they put out in the beginning. Show Poodle says it baffles me that they think it's okay to just flip the script whenever they feel like it. What the hell, in my opinion. Yeah, absolutely. Well said. It baffles me too. When is CP not awkward, Annette? In my opinion. That's true. That is so true. I just thought that was so weird. Like, all of a sudden you just hear this guy, this grown man, green tea. You know, Meg says, I think she was running out of nice things to say, so CP ended it with green tea. True that. Meg. Seriously. Rob Beanie says, he didn't want her to forget to include that story. They rehearsed her reaction, so she is so animated. Yeah, that's true, Robini. They probably did talk about how they, you know, they better get that green tea. And see, and that's what goes back to Deception Detective, right? I mean, parents of the missing children can be manipulative either way, really. I mean, we kind of proved his point either way right there, huh? In my opinion, Robini says. And Lola says, show poodles, it makes you so angry. It is. It's ridiculous, you know. Mark Klein says the teachers knew the feet were playing up his disability. Absolutely. And because the teachers even said, you know, like if you saw Sebastian walking down the street, you would think that he had no deficits at all. You know, so he's just, you know, like a regular kid. Absolutely. And Donna says, hello, everyone. Hey, Donna. And wait, what says KK said he ran funny like anime character. Oh, and Melissa said he could have gotten into a neighbor's vehicle, fell asleep, and woke up at the workplace of a neighbor. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Katie said he runs like Naruto. And then we hear in the phone call with Heather Cohen that she was saying, I know that was Sebastian taking out the trash because he was doing his very unique run like Naruto, right? And I think that was a setup too, because she knew that there was video footage of him taking the trash out, right? And so she set that up on Reels and told everybody he's got a very unique run. He runs like the Naruto anime character. And I hope I said Naruto right. I think I said it right. With his teenage mustache and attitude. Makes him sound like he is, you know, fully capable. Like, I mean, golly, when we think about a man, you know, he's got a mustache, he's got a beard, you know. I mean, geez Louise. Aw. Those cheeks and dimples, little sugar face. I know. He's just such a sweetie pie. And just a sweet kid, you know. I mean, just his demeanor, he's so well-mannered. And, oh, gosh. Show Poodle says, yes, Lolo, I'm having a harder time staying calm about it. I've actually argued either about others' comments. I usually do not behave that way, but I'm getting more prickly about it all. Yeah, I don't blame you, show poodles. I know it's tough. Like, there's a lot of things that I won't even, there's a lot of times where I'm like, just don't say it. Don't say anything. You know what I mean? Because I get like that too, or I will try to go listen to other channels from different perspectives and different things, see what's being said, whatnot. And there's just sometimes where I'm like, I want to make a comment, and then I don't, because I'm like, it's not worth it, and it'll get deleted, or whatever. I tell my man to F off, Robini, for sure. Yeah, and rightfully so, especially when it comes to your kids. You have to stand up for your kids. And usually that works for most people, unless you're dealing with a narcissist control freak, in my opinion, like Chris Broadfoot. Yeah, who doesn't rummage? Yeah, really. When I'm looking for snacks, I definitely rummage C-Star. I'm like, what's in there? Looking around. But they make it seem like he's like when I think rummage, I think of like a homeless person rummaging through the trash, for food, is what I think of when they say that. And it's just like, I try not to think that way, but it's like, I mean, really, I just picture them like looking at him like he's not allowed to be going in their cabinets, and that's his house. It's an odd statement for a parent to make, especially a mother, because most of us moms, that's what we do. We feed our kids, we make sure they're fed. We make sure, even when they come over and they're adults, that's like what we do, right? We plan for their favorite stuff that they like to eat, or, favorite recipe that they've always liked, things like that, Forrest says, yeah, they want to move on so they can recover from all the world asking questions, in my opinion. Definitely. Absolutely. Yep. Yeah, stealing snacks. Yeah, like he's stealing them, It's weird. I agree, Robini. It's just like a very poor choice of words of anything, but sounds just weird as hell. Meg says, very good point here with how they flipped the script. Went from picking up shiny pennies and paper clips, ran funny, could have just gotten into a stranger's car and fell asleep in the back seat. Yeah, absolutely. And then they pretend like, we're silly for like questioning it. That's what drives me nuts. I'm like, what the heck? Because of course we're going to question it. It doesn't make any damn sense. He was in a prison-like environment, C-Star says. Yeah, I feel like he was too. Like it was like, no matter what he did, he was going to get in trouble, even if he wanted to eat something. Like, I don't know. Robini, I still rummage my mom's house for snacks. I bet she doesn't think of it as rummaging, though. Like, I don't know. My daughter, she doesn't live here, but I mean, she knows. And even when she was in college and she'd come visit me and stuff like that, like she knew whatever was in my house was hers, even though she didn't live with me no more, it was like, you still can get whatever you want. Of course. And it's not rummaging. Michelle says, do you think it's possible KP was a mom who dealt with her son so much she got mentally and physically broke down and just kind of let it happen just to get out from underneath the pressure? I think that's a strong possibility, Michelle. We see pictures of Katie and Sebastian in the younger years, right? And she looks like a very loving, caring, proud mom, right? Like any other one of us, right? She just looks like a regular mom, right? But then you kind of see a shift in a lot of the photos. And then also like what we talked about earlier, how people were saying, that Katie and Chris were making comments like Sebastian was goofy looking. How do you figure? I mean, shit, your kids look like you, don't they? So what are you, goofy looking too? Chrissy, read the room. Jeez. Wore a diaper, would sneak food at night. And then he's right too. He's smart, capable young man. Exactly. They don't mention that part that they didn't allow him to wear, big boy underwear. I mean, come on, they're not going to tell Holly Thompson that. They never acted concerned about his medications. I agree, C-Star. But, somebody had to have told the news outlets that he needs to get his medications. even Eric Craddock came out and said, I don't know what medications he takes for his autism, but I'm sure it's not good if he doesn't have them. And, I busted on Eric for that. I'm like, Sheriff Craddock, or I guess he was Deputy Craddock back then. But I'm like, there is no medications for autism. It's therapies. It's not even medication. So, he was under the impression from that. And who did he speak to? Chris and Katie, because I guarantee you Seth didn't tell him that, allegedly in my opinion, because Seth is very straightforward with that sort of thing. And also it seems to me like he didn't particularly appreciate the medications that Sebastian was on because he didn't really think that they were helpful. He would rather have given Sebastian, chamomile tea to calm him down at night, making sure he had a nice routine in place to let him wind down and get ready for the next day. Taking a nice hot shower, letting him sit in there in the steam, calming him down, winding him down. Show poodles. She says, I'm 63 and my parents are late 80s and they always have great snacks. That's so cute. Mark Klein says Sebastian was the only one near a good weight. He had lots of snacks to help him out, right? Well, and I mean, that's the thing, like, you always see, isn't that weird? I always find that to be so weird. You'll have these parents who are like, hefty people, and then their kid is like skin and bones, and then they don't even feed them properly, and then it's like, what the hell is that? I agree, Mark, that's crazy. It's like, but you always see that. They'll be like, this child was starved to death, and then you see the parents are like 5 billion pounds. It's like, you guys eating up all the snacks on your kids and not sharing? Like, what's going on? Oh, that's okay, Annette. Yeah, I can see that. Sometimes they give people with autism anti-anxiety meds. Well, and I can see how Sebastian could have probably had anxiety. Yeah, sure. I think Katie was saying that he took ADHD medications and then also something for sleep, because he had trouble sleeping, which is common also, Robbie. Lolo says Katie really was digging deep there towards the end of the interview to come up with the things she misses. I mean, come on. She misses him stealing Brussels sprouts. I know, Lolo, that is weird, isn't it? And also, like, Brussels sprouts, I love Brussels sprouts, right? They're really good. But you can't really, like, eat them before they're cooked either. So I kind of find that to be, like, not believable, because they're really hard to eat before they're cooked. They don't taste very good, She knows how he runs too, so it could have been her copying, in my opinion. Well, yeah, Robbie, that's a good point. And whoever took the trash out was wearing a hoodie, and that night Sebastian was not wearing a hoodie. But who was wearing a hoodie? Katie. They also had if not the same shoes, they were super similar in my opinion. So that's another thing that was odd. She did say it in another interview, Meg, about the Brussels sprouts. Yeah, she has brought up the Brussels sprouts a lot, right? Yeah. Dang autocorrect. I have no idea what. Sorry, I probably misread that one. Yeah, Mama, and the interviews make it hard for me to see the love of a mom. Same here. Same here. And especially, if you know that, again, statistically, people are going to, it's going to tug on people's heartstrings more so looking for a smaller child. You don't want another smaller child to come in and take the focus off of Sebastian. That would be like your greatest fear, I would think. And I'm not, and I don't pick up on that, Oh, really, Robini? I'm trying to think of when he mentioned the Brussels sprouts. Someone in chat said the other day that Chris Watts mentioned Brussels sprouts too. Weird. It's like they watched old cases. I don't know. I still have like a little bit of a, you know, tinfoil hat complex about that. I am Two Bear says Naruto is anime character in cartoons in a cartoon series. Yeah, he's like a ninja, right? Isn't he Naruto? Yeah, bad actors. Thank you for being here. Bad actor says constant degradation. Yeah, like left and right, like almost just making him feel like uncomfortable in his own home. It's so strange. I can't imagine. And I'd be damned if like a guy was going to make me feel like my child was, uncomfortable in their own home. Like it's weird, but I don't think Chris always was that way. I think that his mask fell when he knew that they were married and living together, and then he started with the control and crap. You know, YouTuber says Rabini, wow, a sociopath must have a thing for them, in my opinion. Detroit Rock City says, so did they hide food from him? I don't know. I heard that there was like a camera pointed in the kitchen, so something like that. I don't know. I heard a couple of different things about that, but it sure does seem like they weaponized food, or they would make it seem like all Sebastian wanted to do was eat sweets, which I mean, when you're a kid, you know, sweets are like, one of your main things that you like. I mean, it's a kid. If you let them eat candy all the time, they're gonna do it. But it just always seemed like, I don't know. See, sir, my grandkids open the fridge and stare. Oh, little Miss Sharon says KP was covering her ass for putting young photos of Sebastian out there by saying he is a young man with a mustache, covering up her mistakes. I think so too, little Miss Sharon. I think she knows that she was putting younger pictures of him up, and that the one on the missing photo, or on the missing flyer back here, was highly photoshopped. I mean, they changed it to a black T-shirt when they put it on the yard signs that Chris said that his mom helped get. So, and Vonna says CP must have made food a big issue. Teenage boys are always looking for things to eat. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, and he said, Sebastian turns into a bottomless pit. Does he really, Chris? Because, I mean, you're a chunky monkey yourself. Show Poodle says, Raw Beanie, so sweet. When I go to my parents, my mom is constantly wanting to cook for me. Yes. Also, could I come visit? Chocolate is my favorite. Show Poodles. Yeah. And that's the thing, I mean, gosh, that's like the first question I'll ask my daughter, like, what do you want to eat? When you come over, and I already know I'll do like, a charcuterie board. She loves that. I'll do all that kind of stuff because, that, you pretty much know what they like, but what do they have a taste for that day or whatever. But it's like showing love, right? It's just, I don't know, or you make their favorite dessert, or, something fun. Like the last time before I moved, I saw my daughter and we did like a big brunch, and I made like different kinds of, little waffles. Like I bought like a little mini waffle iron. We were doing that and bought like fruit and all kinds of stuff. It was fun. But even doing stuff like that when they're older, I mean, she's, I don't know. It's just weird. It's just weird. Showpoodle says, I am Two Bear. Oh, that's what I did not know. Never seen cartoons. Yeah, Showpoodles. And she said that on the Reels interview. She said, he runs like the Naruto anime character. And I had to look up Naruto because I had no idea what Naruto is. I don't watch like anime either, so I had no idea. I like cartoons, but I've never watched that series, and I have a daughter, so I am Two Bear says home is where the mom is. My house will always be my children's home, even if they're moved out or married. Absolutely. Yeah, I am Two Bear, exactly. Like I would never look at my daughter and be like, you can't be going in my fridge like that. That's my refrigerator. Like, oh God, I wouldn't be caught, DAD doing that ever. DAD rather doing that, never. Um, Detroit. Tony Fire says CP and KP should stick to fish pets, no kids, save them. Even the puppies get rock treatment. Well, and it's like, I don't know. I feel bad because they've had a lot of animals like in and out, and then also, Katie was like, we had a bearded dragon, it died. you know, the snake, the cats. Like, Chris wouldn't have made it with me because of the cats. Like, if he was like, I need you to get rid of your cats, I'd have been like, I need you to not live with me. But that's just I mean, that's just me. I'm not expecting her to do the same thing as me, but it's just like, I don't know, that wouldn't have ever flown. It's like, we'll get you some allergy pills or something, and yeah, really, that's true, Mark. Yeah. They probably had plenty of candy left over from Halloween to eat. What kid would go there without a GPS attached? Well, and see, that's the thing too. I don't understand, because Chris would say things like, he would say, oh, well, Sebastian would hide candy in his room and we'd find the wrappers later and stuff like that. But why was Sebastian hiding things like that? And, why was he hiding candy? Was it because it was like easy to get? Like you said, like, was he hiding from after Halloween or, you know, um, whatever, and then eating it, and then they'd find the wrappers. Maybe he forgot to throw them away, but, they had mentioned that. They did. Aw, they never stopped being mom. That's so true, show poodles. Vanna says, I think CP called Sebastian the R word and ran him down so much she began to see him the same way. CP did, and assisted in humiliating him, in my opinion. Well, Vanna, I can't argue with that because, we saw that in the video of his birthday, right? And that was December of 2023, was his 15th birthday. And we see, like, Melissa bullying him, in my opinion, and then she's still filming Sebastian, and Sebastian's having a really hard time, and Katie doesn't take Sebastian away from the camera view or say, hey, Melissa, can you give us a second? She just allows for Sebastian's plight to be recorded by Melissa, and it's gross. And I do think that. I think it was like, if you can't beat him, join him, and she just didn't even worry about protecting him, you know. Cinderella says, in my opinion, it wasn't Sebastian wetting the bed. It was KK. Ooh, Cinderella, that's a good point. I've heard that she had issues with that. That is something that I've heard. Vanna says, allegedly before they removed the internal camera, CP had a camera focused on the fridge with an app. Okay, YouTuber, yeah. CP would yell at Sebastian when he caught him looking for food. Oh my god. That is so sick. You could, I mean, and that's another thing that I wouldn't be able to handle that. Like, you're not going to put a camera facing the, just so you could yell at my kid when he goes in his own refrigerator. Aw, I'm sorry, Vanna. Oh my gosh. I don't understand that. Like, I don't understand, because to me, that's not love. Like, it's just not. You don't love somebody and then, restrict them that way. That is so controlling and toxic. And like I said, I've said it before, if you have a child who is like obese, right, extremely overweight, and it's very unhealthy for them, and they're not making healthy choices, I can understand being more restrictive, but not restricting completely, right? So you're offering them better snacks to eat, right? So say your child is, 20 pounds overweight, you're trying to get them slimmed down a little bit because it's healthy for them, right? It's not being mean, it's because they have an issue and you want to teach them healthy habits, right? And you don't want them to be obese because it's not good for them. I understand that then. So you give them healthier options. You're like, hey, do you want an apple with peanut butter? Hey, do you want granola bar? Instead of like the more sugary candies and stuff like that, find out what they like to eat that's healthier for them and give them those options. But to restrict food completely, I think, is abuse. Even if your child's obese, I think that's mean. Like, poor little thing, you're not going to give them any food, then you're starving them. It's just not right, but offer them something, and then, get them to exercise a little bit more, take them out to do things, go for a walk, after dinner, go for a walk. When they get home, they can choose a healthier snack. We were talking about those banana things that you get. They're like chocolate covered banana pieces, like they're like slices, right? But I swear they taste like ice cream. They're so good. Another thing, frozen yogurt could be a lot healthier than, like, you know and of course it's more expensive, but they had the money. So it's not even about the money for them. Some families, struggle because the cheaper food items are, it's cheaper to buy white bread as opposed to, like, the whole grain bread, right? That's just how it is. But again, making a whole grain toast and putting, peanut butter on it, or avocado or almond butter or whatever. There's just a lot of other options that you can do and not restrict food from these poor kids. I mean, you're going to give them an eating disorder, in my opinion. Robbie says, I do the same with my kids. They're 26 and 30, and I even take them food to their house if they're sick. Oh, Robbie, that's so sweet. In my opinion, Lil Miss Sharon says, both CP and KP have childhood trauma, and when Sebastian reached adolescence, they are not willing to put anyone in front of themselves. That's a very strong possibility, that their trauma has made them more self-centered. I agree with that, Lil Miss Sharon, because narcissists are the most broken people out there. Like, they are so tragically broken, and that's why they have developed this grown ego, is because it's actually a defense mechanism, so they do not get hurt, so they do not bruise their fragile ego again. So I can completely see that. Tony says, all kids raid the cupboards when they're teenagers. The trick is to leave them healthy snacks. Yes, sweets in the vault. That's true. Yeah, and make it to where it's like, because, like, when we were kids, we couldn't have, like, pop and stuff through the week. Now on Friday we got pop, and that was our day to have it. But it wasn't like we just got to drink as many, Cokes or soda, however you guys want to say it. But, we weren't allowed to just, like, do whatever we wanted like that. It was, but it was reserved, right? Because, yeah, it doesn't hurt anybody to have a bowl of ice cream every once in a while, but not all the time. And I agree. But, when the parents aren't wanting to eat healthy and they're buying the crap and they're eating it, you can't just sit there and tell your kids, like, oh, you can't have this ice cream while you're eating it. Like, I mean, you can, but you'd be a cruel son of a bitch if you did it. I mean, in my opinion, allegedly. Detroit says, Mark, they probably bought the candy, but I doubt they passed it out to any kids. Detroit. Oh my goodness. Chris wearing his Pig Fest shirt, just pigging out on the candy. Oh Lord. Oh my God. Baba Rose says, how my grandkids come over and get them a grocery bag and go through drawers and cabinets and go home with snacks. Baba Rose, that's cute. She said, oh my goodness. And I could not have it any other way. That's right. That is why I keep the drawers full for them. Aw, that's so cute, Baba Rose. And they know that. They're coming over like, oh, what's Grandma got? Aw, that's so sweet. And, it makes you feel good, And then, of course, when you're grandma, you get to give them whatever they want. And then it's up to the parents to be like, okay, what snacks did you get? And stuff like that. But yeah, there's no need to restrict it or be controlling or, Annette says ADHD is more often than not a comorbidity diagnosis with autism. For sure, Annette, that's a great point. That is a great point. I agree. Because you do see that comorbidity, and then also, just kind of like mirroring some of it. And then also we were talking about Sebastian's chromosome deletion and how those characteristics and symptoms can also mirror autism with the social and emotional dysregulation and things like that. So absolutely. Yeah, and I think that he was taking medications for the ADHD, according to Katie, in my opinion, from what I heard from her. Oh, yeah. Oh, my goodness. Exactly. I remember the multigrain Cheerios. Those were always something good that you could bring just as like a quick snack too. Or the honey nut Cheerios. But Robini says when my kids were really little, like toddlers, I would call Cheerios, crackers, apples, yeah, pickles, etc., cookies. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you just kind of like, and you got to entice them to eat healthier. You can't always like expect them to make that decision themselves, because all little kids are going to be like, if you if you go to a little kid and be like, would you want a cupcake or do you want a plate of broccoli? They're going to be like cupcake. Every single one of them. I would put my bottom dollar on it. But it's up to us too. And sometimes kids want to eat more than, that is healthy for them. So it's also like, yeah, you can have one cupcake, but you can't have like the whole box of cupcakes, right? Because it's just not healthy. It's too much. Forrest says, in my opinion, she bought snacks as a way of saying no attention, as a way of saying no intention of him leaving. Well, and that's another thing too, Forrest. That's a good point too. Like, I mean, if she bought all those snacks, or if she bought snacks like she said she did, why wouldn't Sebastian take any of his snacks with him? And some people think that, she bought snacks because she was sending him someplace and the snacks were going to be going with him, and I speculated that it's very possible that they bought a bunch of snacks and stuff because they knew they were going to be hauled up in their house for a little bit, because remember, Chris was out of town. So why would Sebastian and Katie need to buy food in bulk when it's just the two of them? And he hadn't been home since the early February, as he said. That's a lot of food to have in the house and buying in bulk and stuff like that, because you can't buy little amounts of food at Sam's or BJ's or Costco, and she went to two wholesalers. She went to Costco on Saturday and BJ's on Sunday. So, I mean, she's going and buying bulk snacks or bulk food for two of them in the house. That's weird to me. You would think the food would go bad, or they would just have like a freezer full of crap, big amounts of it, right? And Little Miss Sharon says, Annette, my daughter apparently has autism, ADHD, odd, but when she feels safe, she is amazing. Aw. Well, Little Miss Sharon, I know you work really hard to make her feel safe, or to let her know that she is safe. So, and Tony Fire says, nice to see they're working on their interviewing skills, but but you still can't hide your guilt. Exactly. And she still can't get it right. I mean, Katie is really, really bad at lying. She really is. Which, I mean, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I'm a horrible liar, but so I don't think it's a bad thing. That means that you have a conscience. That means your brain is telling you, like, no, you're wrong. This is wrong. Stop lying. Cinderella says, that's really weird, the Brussels sprouts comment. It is weird. And plus it's like, how do you eat a raw Brussels sprout, or even like a Brussels sprout that's not, like, I mean, I've made Brussels sprouts before, and it's like, you try one to see if it's done, but it's like almost done, right? And it's like, it's kind of like it's too hard or whatever, it's like you got to cook them a little bit more. So I don't know, it's just weird. And then I just don't think that would be good on your stomach either. YouTuber says, I do look at how he treats Nina's kids, allegedly. That's very true. That is very true, YouTuber. Look at the pattern of how he treated Nina's kids. It's a good indicator of how he treated Katie's kids. It's a good indicator of how he treated his own child, is a good indicator of how he treated Sebastian, in my opinion, So Lori, thank you for being number 133. Let's do a party, guys. I didn't realize we had over 100. I was trying to do 200 and then I keep forgetting. So here, we'll do this. We'll do a little party here. Let's see. I at our party. Oh, here we are.
Weezer, there's someone I'd like you to meet. That looks like an autopsy.
Laughter through tears is my favorite emotion. I'm so mad I don't know what to do. I want to know why. Lord, I wish I could understand. I just want to hit something. I want to hit it hard.
Here, hit this. Go ahead, Merlin. Slap her. Are you crazy? Hit her. Are you high, Clary? We'll sell T-shirts saying I slapped Weezer Boudreaux. Hit her. Weezer, this is your chance to do something for your fellow man. Knock her lights out, Merlin. Let go of me.
But you don't say that.
Merlin, you just missed a chance of a lifetime. Have a chickapin parish and give the eye teeth to take a whack of Weezer. You are a pig from hell. Weezer, I was just kidding. Come back. Oh.
Weezer, what brings you here? Shut up.
Not a very Christian thing to do. And now you gotta lighten up.
If you can't say anything nice about anybody, come sit by me.
Looks like two pigs fighting under a blanket.
A girl is fair game until there's a ring on it. And I mean a wedding ring. An engagement ring just means she's ready for one more mistake. Okay, this is perfect. Watch this.
Sometimes I wish I was smooth like Zahid. Of all the people I know, he's the best at girls.
Thanks, Weezer. That's like a good piece of ass.
And that's how you do it. Now, I'm gonna go hide in the back because that guy said he's gonna kick my ass and he has a neck tattoo, so...
I am pleasant. Damn it! I just saw Drum eating in this morning at the Piggly Wiggly, and I smiled at the son of a bitch, for I could help myself.
Honey, time marches on, and eventually you realize it's marching across your face.
Okay, guys, that's our little party that we do whenever we hit like over 100. So, Baba Rose says those snacks were bought for Crispy and KK. Look at them. I agree. Crispy. Chat Cafe says they may have brought snacks. Supposedly his godmother and her son were hanging out with them for the week prior, according to what was said on the other channel. It is all in that link. Oh, thank you, Town Chat Cafe. Yeah, and that's a good point. They did have company, right? Katie's friend and her son did come to visit. So you're right. They could have been buying extra snacks for company. And YouTuber says Detroit Rock City, yes, would be interesting to hear from their neighbors whether they ever saw the Proudfoot's dogs. That is true. Yeah, that's a great point, YouTuber. Forrest says, yeah, she went to Costco and BJ's, but yet she says she didn't have very many groceries. That's true. Yeah, and we kind of heard that from Justin, too, that they bought snacks and socks. Like, that is a weird thing, too, to buy the socks. I'm still kind of thinking about that, too. And Tom Check Cafe says, yeah, so please, that is a top priority to listen to the link. I will, Tom Check. I keep forgetting to look at my, well, I don't forget. It's like I get into other things and then I'm like, yeah, but I will look for that. And that is about, yes. Okay. So I will definitely look. Oh yeah, Mark, that is true. Ugh, God, it's so sad. So it's hard to have friends when nothing fun around to do, and he begged for friends. Yeah, and and if he didn't have like any toys outside or anything that like show that he was playing outside and things like that. I know there was that video of Sebastian riding a bike, so we knew that he could ride a bike. Um, but we didn't never see it outside of their house. And according to the neighbors, they didn't see it. So it kind of detours other kids from coming over when it doesn't even look like a kid lives there. And I think Sebastian was um, very well socialized, like in terms of like when we saw him when he was little and he was playing tag with the other little kids. He was very like gentle when he tapped somebody. He wasn't like very rambunctious and like all over the place. He was very like kind and courteous. So yeah, it's still just really troubling that he says that he was begging for friends and that he really wanted friends because I think that he was a very likable and very sweet person. um Show Poodle says that's why CP doesn't want KK talking to Seth. He knows when she's lying. I agree, Show Poodles, and especially when you've known somebody as long as they've known each other. Absolutely. Absolutely. Cinderella said, why would a man just come into a family and try to give the kids' bed away? Oh my gosh, I know. Or try to come into a family and be like, oh, hey, by the way, we need to get rid of the cats here. Like, don't you know that she's got cats, like, to begin with? It's just kind of like pushing to see how far he could make her, change. Oh, cherry tomatoes are great. Yes, Detroit. That is such a good snack right there too, like a healthy snack, right? Um, Absolutely. Gosh, garden tomatoes are the best. And Time Chat Cafe says, but it's all alleged information according to the conversation from the other channel. Okay, cool. Time Chat Cafe. Yeah, and I like reviewing other people's content. I do. I think it's interesting. Like, I try not to review some people that I don't particularly agree with because I know that's going to be BS family reunion, Mark. um, because I know that probably isn't well received, so I try not to do it too often. But Sea Star, I love that movie. It makes me laugh every time. I like that show Atypical too. It makes me laugh when I see that kid. He reminds me of Chris. Mrs. Doubtfoot. Hey, Warrior Princess. Good to see you. Aw, thanks, Detroit. Lighten that chat up, green. Thank you. Aw. We love our green hearts here. And Town Chat Cafe says supposedly that is Sebastian's godmother and KP's best friend. Yeah. Lori. Yep. And then and that was another friend of Sebastian's. I mean, you guys know how it is. Most of the time, if your kids have if your friends have kids, they play with your kids. Most of the time. It's all about feet and socks. YouTuber. I mean, hey Vic, good to see you. The bike was probably rented. Could have very well been, just as show. Oh, Katie does not speak. Hey Seth, good to see you. He says Katie does not speak with Sebastian's godmother. Interesting. Thank you, Seth, for clarifying that. So her best friend is not Sebastian's godmother. Interesting. Robini says, I thought KP said she didn't even know he had a godmother. Oh. See, I didn't hear that, Robini. That's... Thanks, YouTuber. YouTuber weird considering Sebastian had no shoes. Little Miss Sharon says. Oh gosh, me too, Lori. Cherry tomatoes are so good. Seth says, she does know Sebastian's godmother. She just hates the fact that I made that decision way before she went into the military. I am Catholic and it's one of our religious practices. That's a great point, Seth. Yeah, absolutely. You baptize the babies. You baptize babies. Very true. Aw, thank you. Thank you, little Miss Sharon. We are Sebastian Strong. Show Poodle says she got rid of Sebastian's cats to be with CP. She invited in the snake, cut her no slack. Yeah, I mean it's maddening. It really is. It is maddening, you know. And you know, Chris was kind of bragging too, like, you know, he never let me live that. Sebastian never let me live that down. It's like, well, why would he? You took his cats. That was his friends. You know, that was his family. I look at, you know, my dog like that. You know, I'm like, if somebody took my friend, I'd be upset. Um, you know, and it's like, I wonder if that's kind of when the mask started falling for Katie, you know, because in the beginning it seems like there was a lot of like love bombing and things like that. But then all of a sudden, like once they decided to move in together and he says, get rid of the cats, and she does, you know, if you're willing to get rid of, you know, an ugly painting on the wall that somebody doesn't like, you know, and you think it's the best or whatever, or if you're a guy and you have like, you know, a big neon beer sign and you know, your significant other is like, I really don't want that in our living room. That's different than like a whole animal, a whole cat, or, you know, somebody that's supposed to be part of your family. It's a lot different, you know? So, yeah, it is. That's so true, Detroit. Yeah, raised Catholic, and that's a must to baptize your children. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, in a lot of religions, it's that way. And, you know, your godparents are picked very early on in that case. So, thank you, Seth. You be blessed too. Sebastian Strong, hashtag keep the faith. Yeah, we will. We will, Seth. Thank you so much. And you stay strong too, like you are. We appreciate you being a good dad, you know, because we're often talking about Crispy, who isn't. Town Chat Cafe says, okay, then I may have misunderstood the conversation. It was kind of hard to follow the conversation. You will understand what I mean when you listen to it. And Seth, thanks for clarifying that it helps. Yeah, absolutely. Well, and you know, that's what's hard too about like different viewpoints. I mean, it's a good. It's not bad. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but yeah. And I haven't checked it. I haven't checked to see which you're talking about. So, Vic says Sebastian had love that Crispy could never understand. In my opinion, I agree with that, Vic. I do. I do. We all know how traumatic it is when someone takes our fur babies from us. Yeah, well, Miss Sharon, it is because it's like that's your friend, your buddy, your, you know, you love them. You know, you can't wait to see them. They can't wait to see you. You know, I mean, it's super traumatic and just uncalled for. You know, and if you already know somebody's got cats, I mean, you know, and there's certain deal breakers, and why would you even get involved? I mean, you know. And Forrest says, is Lori the one that visited KP? No, yeah. So, no, she is not Sebastian's godmother, but she is Katie's friend. So, and YouTuber says, show poodles do not remember when KP said he loved that thing. Oh, Sebastian Snake. Yes, Brownie with a big grin. She had no issues with CP getting rid of the snake, in my opinion. Oh, I know. Yeah, she said she had said that Sebastian loved Brownie, right? She's like, he loved that thing, and then, you know, here he is taking them. Yeah, you can get allergy shots and meds, Mom, and thank you. Yeah. I mean, a lot of people, I think I have a slight allergy because I had two cats too, and I would always be like itching and you know, and stuff like that. Sometimes my eyes would water, you know, when I was petting them if their dander was like, oh, you know, really big. But you know, you just vacuum more, and you know, it just kind of comes with the territory, right, of having animals. Lori, thanks, Seth. Lori doesn't know Sebastian's godmother either. Yeah, and I think I heard something. I'm not as familiar with like Lori, but I heard something like they were friends in the military or something like that, and I'm guessing it was kind of after, like far after when Sebastian was older that she met this particular friend. Just my understanding. And Show Poodle says YouTuber, yes, I do, and I agree. Aw, YouTuber, thank you. Aw, thanks, guys. Aw, thank you for the green hearts. You guys are awesome. You guys are awesome, awesome, awesome. Thank you, Show Poodles. All right, guys. Well, I think we're going to be getting off here. We've been on, well, my goodness. I always think it's going to be like, I'm always like, I'm going to try to do like a 2-hour live, and all of a sudden it's like 4 hours. But I think it was a good live. You guys have said so many good comments. I really enjoyed sitting here talking with you guys. Detroit Rock City says, Forrest, I think Seth chose Sebastian's godmother. Yeah, yes, he did. Yeah. Show Poodle says CP has a problem with cats, dogs, snakes, kids, other people. So basically anything that breathes, in my opinion. Yeah, I think that's safe to say, in my opinion, Show Poodles. You know, and he's always, he had made that comment. He's like, I'm so tired of being nice and doing. It's so narcissistic when somebody says that. You know, I'm tired of being a normal person. I'm tired of portraying myself to be normal. I just want to be a jerk like I usually am and get away with it. I'm sick of the public's opinion. It's like, well, maybe be a little bit nicer, or maybe just be quiet. You know, I think this is terrible. Maybe just be quiet, you know, because we would like you better if you were quiet. You're welcome, Vic. Thank you so much. All right, I better get off here before I get too silly up here. Thank you, little Miss Sharon. Thank you. You guys are so awesome. Thank you all for being here. Thank you so much, Seth. Thank you. And let's say prayers for Sebastian. Let's say prayers for Summer as well, guys, because I wanted to put Summer's little face up there. She's just as cute as she could be. Gosh, just a little sweetheart. And you know, let's pray that they get some good tips in there. The new reward is 500,000, right? So that's fantastic. And I promise you can come get me, Town Chat Cafe, if I do not check my email immediately after this live. disclaimer, right? She's like, I'm gonna come get you. Thank you, C-Star, for the purple hearts. Oh, thank you, Mark. Thanks for being here, Mark. Thanks for the laughs. That was a funny joke earlier. I think I could have been better on the delivery of the punchline, but I wasn't expecting it. But yeah, prayers to everyone. Prayers to our net, all of our friends. Prayers for Mr. and Mrs. E and Middle E, Aunt E. I love Aunt E. You know, just prayers for all of our friends, and you know, all the people that we you know and love that need them, you know, and pray for people that don't need it, you know, pray for good things to happen, something like that. But thank you, Donna. Good night. Thanks, Lori. Good night, everyone. Thanks, Rob Beanie. You guys are amazing. I will see you tomorrow night.